All right, welcome back to the IMNerd Podcast, guys. I'm your host, Freeway. I'm here with my co-host, Kenny. And today we have a very special guest with us. We have James Ark, who is one of the best players in Edison format and apparently other formats too, because earlier today I was doing my research and I pulled up your profile on Format Library and saw that you actually just play all the Yu-Gi-Oh! So,
oh yeah,
you are very known, at least for me, for playing Value Turbo really well. And I think that you're one of those people that, like, just like me and a lot of other good players, you can just play anything, so you're not really confined to one particular deck. But I think when I started playing Edison format in 2022, which is the first time I actually started playing it, I think I mostly saw you on stream or whatever playing with Value Turbo and just, absolutely obliterating people. Is your name on DB Luck Extreme? Is that you?
Yeah, Luck Extreme. I have a few others, but yeah, mostly Luck Extreme for the Edison stuff. Yeah.
Yes, we all have to have multiple because sometimes you just want to go undercover a little bit. When I play on IMNerd, it is actually one of the most obnoxious things ever. I have to put on a watch password and I end up blocking so many people who just try to annoy me. Some people send me music videos or their mixtapes or whatever.
Not sending music videos in the middle of the.
They do be sending the music videos.
Yeah, it'll be a YouTube link. First of all, let me just say this on this podcast now. If you're listening to this, I will never click a fucking link that you send me on Dueling Book ever in my life. I will never in my life click a single link on Dueling Book. That will never, ever happen. I don't click links in text messages. I don't click links on Facebook Messenger. I don't click links under Facebook posts. You can't get me to click a link. You have to be my best friend, okay? You need to hack into my best friend's account and send a link through them and only them, because I will never click a link, especially on Dueling Book. That's just crazy. But yeah,
it is wild.
I want to say they're bots or something though, that automated, I think. But it's just crazy to me that someone would go through the effort of making a bot to do that, just spam your YouTube link or whatever, and then choose Dueling Book of all places to unleash it.
They just do it anywhere that they know about.
They be doing anything.
I stream on Twitch a lot, and then the other day, sometimes you just get bots that'll join. Hey, how you guys doing? Blah 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 blah. Check out my YouTube. And all right, well, I'm banning. He's banned. But then the other day, somebody joined my chat and was like, oh, really like the streamer, whatever. And I was like, oh, cool, thanks. And he goes, hey, I'm just wondering, is it okay if I post the stream link of this other guy I'm watching? He said if I post his link in 5 different channels, he'll give me a free sub. And I was like, well, you can just tell him to suck a dick. You're not you're not posting it here. And then he goes, I explained it's bad manners. I don't even know you.
Yeah,
if you were my friend,
don't come to my fucking stream doing that.
Yeah, if my friend goes, yo, check out this, or somebody that's watched me a lot, check out this channel, I'm like, oh, cool, and I'll check it out. But if some random just comes in, I'm like, no. So anyway, I explained to him all the reasons why he can't do it. And he goes, okay. And 5 minutes later, he goes, just so you know what the channel is, this is it. And I was like, what the fuck?
Oh my God.
He wasn't taking no for an answer.
Yeah. So anyway, he got banned. But to go back on topic, I wanted to ask, I saw your format library. Fraser sent it to me today. And I just want to know, it said on there one of your favorite decks is one of my favorite decks. Do you play the Gear Free deck with the fucking
Blast with Chain and Smoke Grenade?
I did play that. Yeah, I love that, but it was kind of for a short period of time. There was
because on Format Library it says favorite decks.
Yeah,
and it has that list.
I think that just goes by
how does that get decided?
Play it just somehow calls decks you've entered tournaments with.
Okay.
And I did enter a couple with that a year and a half ago in Go format. Yeah.
So question for you, James. Let's back up some. So Yu-Gi-Oh, right?
Sure.
How did you get into Yu-Gi-Oh? Let's get the backstory on who you are as a duelist. We're going to refer to you as James Ark. That's what your name is on Discord, and I think that's just appropriate for this.
Yeah.
But how did you get involved in Yu-Gi-Oh to begin with? When did it start? When did the bug get you?
Yeah, the full lore dump. Basically, I think it was 2002, 2003 or something. Whenever the anime was first coming out, I was a fan of it.
That's good. Most people keep saying that, oh, I didn't watch the anime. They want to be cool, so they say they never watched the anime.
I definitely stopped watching it kind of early on. I don't really know why, but I don't really know what happens in the anime past Battle City, you know?
Same. Well, same.
GX,
I wasn't a fan of GX personally because I don't like Jaden. I don't like the heroes that he uses and stuff.
Yeah, so I don't know what goes on there either.
You want to get your game on?
I hated the main character of GX. And
there's a school? They're in the school?
That's the one where they're in the school, yes.
And the game on.
Like I know enough about it where I know that there were 3 different like dorms. One's the obelisk blue dorm. I think that was like the best players.
Yeah.
Then you had Slifer
That's
Red.
maybe the extent of my knowledge.
Yes, those were the shitty players. Then you had the raw yellows who were like the middlings. They were just the people who were.
And the school was made by Seto Kaiba, so go figure the tiering system.
Oh, was it actually?
Yeah, that's why Obelisk is the best players and Slifer is the worst players because Kaiba's a hater.
That makes sense.
No idea.
Yeah, but so the anime was short-lived for me too. Like I know the original series with Pegasus and Kaiba and Joey and all that stuff.
Sure.
After that, it is a rant. But you did watch the anime back then.
I understand there's mythic dragons and then they're in Egypt. I've read my share of Wikipedia plot summaries, but
I think every Yu-Gi-Oh season is kind of like a Final Fantasy game. Like it starts off and it has a plot, and then at the end it's just like a world dragon and a tree and like a demon from another dimension, and that's the end. That's the end. That's the end of every season.
So it's all unknown to me. But anyway, I watched the anime and I liked it, and then I went to some store in my town. I grew up in Maine, which is end of the earth basically. So
because I don't know anyone.
Really small town.
I don't know any duelists from Maine, if I'm being honest. I don't think I do. I could because I know a lot of fucking people, but Maine is not a state that I've heard much about.
No. As far as Yu-Gi-Oh scene stuff, it wasn't really anything. We didn't have regionals there for a while, but I mean, anyway, I got my hands on some packs, starter deck, whatever, and I remember. I don't know. I just like got super enthralled by the cards, and I must have had the video games around this time too. The card based ones were series, whatever. I don't remember.
Yeah, I had a couple of those. There was like Reshuffle Destruction, Forbidden Memories, Duelist of the Roses or something like that. There were a couple different Yu-Gi-Oh games. There's actually so many of them. Dark Duel Stories.
There's so many. I definitely sunk a lot of hours into those, so probably that's also a good part of how I like learned how to actually play the game. Because a lot of people, like both with this and like Pokemon or whatever, I'll meet a lot of people, or I'll tell them I play or whatever, and they'll be like, oh, like I had the cards as a kid, but like we were just kind of throwing cards on the field and like, but I distinctly remember me and my closest friend back then playing. So I was like 11 or something, 10, 11, 9. And like, I definitely made an effort to like read the rules and be like, okay, let's play this game somewhat how it's meant to be played. I definitely didn't get everything right, but I definitely like remember like playing pretty much correctly,
It always takes the one person in the group to decide that we're not just going to summon Blue Eyes from our hand with no tributes,
I mean, we definitely bent I definitely remember some like 3-way duels occurring. Like,
I've done Yu-Gi-Oh orgies and threesomes before, and
when you're a young buck, you always do some weird shit.
I usually end up getting jumped in those because even as a kid, like I was a big fish in a small pond. So as a kid, I would, we would do our Yu-Gi-Oh orgy things, and it would be like 4 or 5 people playing in a duel. But somehow towards the end of it, it would be like everyone attacks Frazier, like everyone get Frazier the fuck out the game, and I would just find myself doing stuff like playing Swords Revealing Light and just like protecting myself from the whole field and just like Raigeki everybody or whatever. It was so crazy.
Pretty good card. Yeah, if Swords prevents all attacks and Raigeki kills 5 people's monsters, let's go.
We were making up whatever we had to do. It was great. Like it was so funny back then.
Frazier, you know how it goes, all right? You now 10, 20 years later play DC deck building, and when someone's in the lead, it is fucking sharks in the water.
Oh yeah, there's blood.
It is sharks in the water.
The sharks smell blood. But yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh definitely start with the anime a little bit, get the cards, get some starter decks, and then if you got a couple of friends who are down to play, a lot of people grow out of it. At least that was my experience, where when I was younger, like you have people on your street or people in your neighborhood that might play for a bit, and then as you start to get older, some people feel like they're too cool to play Yu-Gi-Oh, or like they just naturally grow out of it for other things, and that's fine. But I just kept playing because I was a nerd and super like into card games, I guess, in general. But yeah, as for yourself, so you lived in a place like Maine, the Yu-Gi-Oh scene there, I assume wasn't like too big or too crazy.
No, I think what kind of kept it going was I had my immediate group of friends or some kids at school or whatever, but like, maybe 5 or 6 people or something that were friends of mine that I might play with on occasion, that we were both into it at the time that everyone was. We would trade cards or whatever, but I looked up locals, and I don't even remember exactly how or I would have done that, but
that's the beginning of it.
Yeah, exactly. And I convinced my parents to take me, and I have a funny anecdote while we're in the topic of it, because I remember I go there, right? And I have my little, it was definitely a kit deck, you know, like little normal monsters and
might not have had sleeves
or whatever. Almost certainly did not have sleeves. And like, but the thing was, like I said, I had like a pretty good understanding of how to play the game, you know, like I wasn't just going to be slamming my summon skull or whatever, no tributes. And I even remember I was on Pojo, the old site back then.
Yeah, we know Pojo. Like, if you don't know Pojo, listen to this. Like Pojo,
bro, you got to get Pojo. You got to get Pojo the guy on here.
Yes,
I'll give you some content ideas.
I was about to say, if somebody has a contact for him, please get. I want like the Pojo old school.
Crazy interesting.
It'd be fire. But look, so I'm on Pojo, right? And I remember reading some of the little card reviews or strategies or whatever. Like I was just enthralled by the game, and like I remember reading like Jinzo had just come out. That's where we are timeline wise.
Okay, me and you strangely existed around the same time. I started when Feral Servant was the newest pack.
Yeah, that was like right when I got to locals. I think that had come out fairly recently.
Yep.
And I remember reading on there that like you can't trap hole a Jinzo, right?
Yep.
Which I mean we understand now, but like to a little kid, right? You're like, but it's not even on the field yet, you know? Like I there is some degree of confusion there. And I remember I played against one of the better players in the store who had like all the money cards, like round 1 or something. And he tribute summons a monster, and my hand just instinctively goes over my set trap hole, and I flip it over as he summons the monster. And he's like, it's Jinzo. And he starts to explain, obviously like thinking that he's gonna have to explain this to like this little kid that you know, and like I'm not trying, and I was like, but that doesn't work. But I was like, first of all, I was already just like embarrassed and overwhelmed in this like crazy environment where everyone's playing Yu-Gi-Oh to this high level for sure. And so when that happened, I just like flipped it back. I was like, oh, my bad. Like I do actually know the ruling, you know?
Yeah.
But then I don't know. I just have this vivid memory of that happening and being like, I don't know. Like I lost immediately that tournament, obviously, but just feeling like I did sort of had some semblance of an idea of what I was doing.
You were both embarrassed, but at the same time knew the rules.
Yeah.
And
they didn't have to explain it to me.
I have a story about Jinzo too, and I'm sure I've told it on this podcast before, but when I first started playing Yu-Gi-Oh, Feral Servant was the newest pack. My friend Rashawn had me buy 3-starter deck Kaiba, so I got 3 Blue Eyes, which was like the thing back then. But then he was like, you could buy some packs too, and there was Magic Ruler is what it was called at the time. Obviously Legend of Blue Eyes, Metal Raiders, Magic Ruler, Feral Servant in that order. And I'll never forget, because I pretty much have a library of Yu-Gi-Oh information in my head still. But I bought Feral Servant because it was the newest one, and that's what they had the most of in stock. And I packed the Jinzo first edition secret rare. Okay, ooh. I have no idea what I have, but everyone who's around me, I went to school with like a bunch of Indonesian kids at the time, and they were all just like freaking out. They weren't speaking English at the time. Like they can speak English, but they just would not. And they were like going crazy. And so I'm looking at them like, well, what the fuck? And then Rashawn's like, oh, definitely keep that. Like that card's insane. Keep it. You definitely want that. That can go right into your deck. So a couple of weeks pass, and I'm watching the anime, and I see Pegasus summon Thousand Eyes Restrict because it's towards the end of him versus Yugi for everything. Like this is for the $3 million. This is to get Joey's sister an eye transplant, whatever the fuck she needs. This is to get my grandpa back and all that. Like, so they're playing, and the anime is just airing. These are new episodes of Yugi versus Pegasus finally. And he summons Thousand Eyes Restrict, and it's pretty much the end when Pegasus is going crazy, pulling out his hair and all that shit. And I was infatuated with Pegasus as a character. I wanted everything that he had. I thought Toon World, the way it worked in the show, was like tier 0. Like you can't attack my monsters at all. They go back into the Toon World, and then they can attack you directly, so they jump over your like it was insane. Like everything about Pegasus, he like stole Blue Eyes from Kaiba, then turned it into a Toon, and then like beat Kaiba, and everything he did was just crazy to me. So I was like super, and I love villains in general, so I was like super into it. And one day, one of the Indonesian kids came up to me. He was like, hey, do you want to trade your Jinzo? Now I have been told several times, do not trade that Jinzo for no reason. And if my friend Rashawn was around, he would literally tell the guy like, fuck off, you know, he's not trading it or whatever, but he wasn't around. So he was like, would you trade it? And I was like, I had to think about it. And I said, can I see your stuff? Okay. I looked at his stuff, and I saw on his first page an ultra rare first edition Thousand Eyes Restrict. Now I had no idea that my card was rarer than his. I didn't know what secret rare was. Sure. I didn't know what ultra rare was. I have no idea, no concept of that. So after school, we go to this random street where we would play Yu-Gi-Oh on the steps, or they would play Yu-Gi-Oh on the steps. And this is my first time following them, just because we were supposed to do this trade after school, because you weren't really allowed to pull your cards out at my Catholic school. They would take them from you. So we had this whole plan of like after school, we're gonna walk away from the building, go to a random street, and then decide if we're gonna do this trade. So we get to the spot. He pulls out his binder again. I'm looking at the $1,000 restrict, and he's like, would you do the $1,000 restrict for the Jinzo? And I'm like, oh man. And I debate this for like literally 15 minutes, and I'm sure this kid is sweating because he knows.
Yeah.
He knows, he knows the Jinzo is the more valuable card.
Dude, even plotting on you too, probably.
The whole day, man. Since I packed it, he didn't stop hounding me. And then he waited for the day when Rashawn didn't come into school. Rashawn would either skip school or just be out for random reasons all the time. Never understood that to this day, but he would just not be at school sometimes. And he waited until it was a day where he wasn't around, wasn't there to protect me, and was like, do you want to trade this? And I eventually said yes, gave up my first edition Feral Servant Jinzo, got $1,000 strict. Then the next time I saw Rashawn, obviously he fucking lost. He was so mad at me. He was like, you really fucked up, whatever. Made me feel really bad, right? And then later on, like, I don't know how, because time is so weird when you're a kid. Everything seems much longer. Like the summer seems like it lasted for a year when you're a child, but now the summer is literally 3 months to an adult, and you know all 3 of the months, and they go by really quick as an adult. And so when I was a kid, it seemed like Tenzo, the 10 of Jinzo, came out like kind of soon after I ended up trading away my first edition Feral Servant Jinzo. Like within the next 6 months, I feel like Tenzo ended up coming out, and I ended up getting that one, and obviously it wasn't the same, and everybody kept calling it Tenzo, and Rashawn would always be like, you had the real thing, you had the first edition one, and all, like, and he would show me the Beckett magazine, and Beckett had the fucking worst prices ever, so they would make it seem like Jinzo
I have a couple of those.
The old
I found them
ones?
in my old stuff. I have them like in my room. Yeah,
that's crazy. Beckett is like the goat for absolutely juicing people in prices.
I'll never forget. As a Beckett side note, I think I told this before, but in one of the Beckett magazines, there was a whole article on how to become a Super Saiyan and a whole like training regimen, like how many push-ups.
Of course. Kenny definitely
tried.
Did it work?
No, it didn't. It didn't work. But I fucking tried. I don't know if that should be legal, man. They knew what they were doing. I could have hurt myself, man. I was trying. I was really trying to become a Super Saiyan.
I remember that specific Bumps magazine that had that in it, Kenny. Like I feel like I also saw that. But I just knew obviously that it wasn't, real. But Feral Servant Jinzo.
You gotta have faith. You gotta have faith. All right. If Jesus is real, why can't Goku? All right.
Not this.
Sure.
But yeah, I ended up getting juice from my Jinzo, and that's my Jinzo story. And I probably said this on the podcast before, but forgive me, we have 145 episodes now. And anyway, back to you, James. So some time passes. I'm just going to do a time skip for you. So some time passes.
Yeah, sure. I could get deep in the weeds with this stuff.
Yes.
So, yeah.
So some time passes. At what point do you ever decide, like, did you ever start to play in regional, like the regional level, the SJC level?
Yeah. That's a good thing to fast forward because there are so many weird little moments in between there. Obviously, most of my friends that I went to that first locals with, like from my hometown, stopped playing. So I would just go. But I made another friend that I did go to school with that we would go together, and still remains one of my friends to this day. Actually, you might know because he did some ARG stuff. Trevor, did you ever meet this guy?
I do know Trevor. Yes.
He did the streams. Yeah, that's like my boy from so long ago.
Trevor is cool as shit. He's a pure soul. That's how I.
Yeah, exactly.
He's a really nice person.
There's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot to be said. But that's my boy. That's my boy since day one.
Yes.
But basically, I went to. I think honestly, the first bigger event I had gone to was Shonen Jump Boston, 2005. And like we were. I don't know, like my parents drove me down and we already were doing some other like road trip through there or something. And so obviously that's like GOAT format, which I play a lot of now. So it's funny that was like, because I also have a lot of memories of playing a lot that summer and feeling like I was getting better and better. And I had won locals a couple times at this point. So it's like, I was kind of like one of the better players at my locals. Is there a background?
Yeah, I hear music.
Yeah, I think it's just like a car outside.
I was just typing that to the chat.
Yeah,
I was like,
my bad. I don't know if you
it's all good.
Edit. No, I think it's just like a car outside my building. But what was I gonna say?
So you were at SJC Boston, was it?
Yeah, I did kind of bad in the actual event. I don't know. I was playing just like some GOAT control-ish deck. But I started immediately playing side events because I was like, oh, let me use my time,
Right.
while I'm here and win some boxes or whatever it was. And so 2 things happened. One, I think I was just getting lucky and winning some of these side events, or as all the people that weren't very good that dropped from the main thing, whatever. But all the Comic Odyssey guys, team from back in the day, you know, I'm sure, but
100%,
people listening might not know. Like, so they were just like flying around to all these tournaments, winning all these prize cards or something. And I had definitely been reading like metagame and all this stuff. Like,
I just got into metagame as well.
Yeah, like just totally idolizing that whole situation.
We have a very similar Yu-Gi-Oh origin story. Like everything you're saying, man. I remember. Like Bobby, so I pulled up metagame.com and Bobby Chambers won that event, the Boston Shonen Jump Championship tournament. And Shrink was
he won 2006. He won 2006.
So there's another one. Hold on, I can go back further.
Yeah.
There's another Boston.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that one too. Okay, not to be super painstaking about it, but
that's perfect. Brian Long. Oh, this guy's from my local actually.
Yeah. It's like Philly, Delaware or something.
Yes, he's from Delaware, but he plays.
You sound like you got more to say.
No. I love Brian. Brian used to spend a night at my house in like 2014 when Necrolls was a thing. I think was when he was playing.
Oh, that's
again.
what's up.
Like he came back into Yu-Gi-Oh. So like as a more mature person and everything, we didn't like each other when we first met. We hated literally fucking almost came to fighting each other when we first met. And somehow, some way, we ended up becoming boys. And like we started going to locals together. I got him back in the game. I told him how to like do all the stuff. But yeah, we can talk about that later. Cool. But yeah, so this is the Boston 2005 September 10th 2005. Okay,
crazy Todd, Chris Perovic, Todd,
Brent Yetter, Brian Coronel,
and Cyber Dragon would just come out, so it totally like fucked up the format. Xarion, like all this stuff. you could do stupid stuff like metamorphosis your BLS into Cyber Twin, like kill them.
Yes,
I definitely was doing the fuck out of that in my side events.
Yeah, you were a little ahead.
So I watched all these Comic Odyssey guys plays who were farming the side events, and I would watch them play, and they would just do stuff. They definitely were like still in the 05 Yu-Gi-Oh mindset, but they were still very ahead of a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I would watch them do all this stuff. Like, I don't know, if they had Sangan and Graceful Charity, they would wait for the Sangan to trigger and then search their Sinister Serpent and then use the Graceful Charity. And like, bro, I'm what, 13 at this point?
Yes.
At this actual event. And like to a 13-year-old who's just been like playing at a local with like their friends, like it's like, oh, Graceful Charity, why would I not just like fire that off immediately, you know? So like watching someone do this and watching someone that I know to be like one of the best players do this, I'm just like, oh my God, I've been doing everything wrong, you know? Like, and so I watched a number of this guy's games and ended up playing him. His name's Juan. He was like one of the Comic Odyssey players at the time. But and even over the course of just that afternoon, I started playing completely differently. Because I would watch the stuff that he did and just emulate it. I mean, probably I was like applying it wrong, but you know, I was still like trying. Yeah, exactly. And so this all culminated in the way they were doing it back then, or at least at that specific tournament, they had a top 8 cut or something of the people who had the most points.
Oh, okay. You mean for the side event playoff type thing.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Maybe it was top 4, I don't know. And so it was like, because I had just been farming the side events all day, I was in that top 8. And so were a couple of these guys. And basically I win out and I'm in the finals of this. So if I win, I get a Des Volskalf or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's me against, I think it was like one of the Comic Odyssey guys, like Sang Bui, I think might have been that guy who like went to Worlds in 05. Yeah, like very old player. This is just, it's only because I play this guy that I have some recollection.
Right.
But heartbreaking thing. I think we're like going to game 3 or something, or I don't remember that, but I realized I like we started the game or something, and I realized I had 16 cards in my side deck or something. Like I didn't side deck correctly. But the judge is like, everyone's sitting around us. The judge is sitting right next to me, and I'm just a little kid, and I'm like, damn, I don't want to get banned from Yu-Gi-Oh, my favorite game, you know. And so I tell the judge, and I'm like, hey, I think this happened. They're like, okay, well, that's a game loss. Like, that's just what it is, you know? And so I get a game loss and I don't get my card. And I mean, who's to say I would have beaten him? But
did the game start already? I don't remember if you said that.
I honestly don't remember. I think it must have, you know, I don't know what exactly the situation was that I reported it, and that was the penalty.
I think even if you drew your first hand already, I'd have been like, all right,
something like that.
It's fine. Just
yeah, right. I don't know.
I know the book
It was a
rule,
bummer though.
for people listening, the rule for, the books, right? Like the Konami guide, the UDE guide tells you that once you draw your opening hand, the duel has begun and your deck needs to be correct 100%. There needs to be 15 in the side.
Yeah.
And back then you couldn't have less than 15 either. So it needs to be 15 in the side exactly or 0. And your main deck has to be whatever your original main deck is supposed to be. And if you've drawn a hand, no matter what, that is considered illegal if you've presented to your opponent, like whatever, whatever. Yeah. You can also get a game loss if you just give your opponent your deck. And let's say your deck is 40 cards and you accidentally give them a 41 card deck. That is also a game loss. And that's not, the game hasn't started yet. But like once you present, they consider that to be like, you presented your deck and you presented an illegal deck. That's automatically game loss territory. That's just how it is. And I hate it too. I think that if you present and your opponent pile shuffles your deck and they're like, game 1, this was 41. Game 2, this is now 40. So something is wrong. And I feel like at that point, because the game hasn't officially started yet, it should just be like, okay, correct it and then just continue on. But like,
it's so easy to just like accidentally miss a card.
Yes,
like,
and it's happened to the best of us. I'm talking about some of the best players in the world have had this exact procedural error happen where they present a deck accidentally illegally, or the best one is you snatch steal somebody's card. You guys are both using PC white, so you don't realize when the game concludes that you have their BLS. And then at some point during the game, you guys realize, oh shit, when you
draw the second BLS.
Yes, when you draw the second BLS or whatever happens, you're like, oh fuck, this is the BLS from game 1. I snatched it, I never gave it back. Yeah. I put it in my graveyard. You didn't notice, I didn't notice, and now we both have an illegal deck now, though, right? Like we both
double game loss,
and then the person who won game 1 just wins the whole thing, which is just unfortunate. But anyways, so you get you have this error happen when you're actually in the finals of playing for a prize card.
Yeah. So I lose, and I mean, obviously, I was upset, and my parents came and picked me up shortly after, and I was trying to explain it. Right, it's hard to even explain. It's like
a good fucking luck.
like I was like, I was in the finals of this thing. If I won, this thing was probably like $2,000 or something, right?
Literally that minimum.
Now insane, but like
20, 30 for sure.
Yeah, and so like. Just explaining why I was like kind of bummed out, and they were like, "Okay, well, whatever. We're gonna go like hang out.
We're gonna go
to Arby's.
Fucking deal with it. Like I don't know.
You want ice cream, buddy? Here's some ice cream. Like, go fuck off.
I mean, my parents were super supportive of this the whole time, but like, I mean, you just have
they didn't understand
context.
Like the gravity.
No context.
Yes, my dad was the same way. My dad would be like, "Did you win?" And I'd be like, "I made top cut." Which is the playoffs, because he loves sports, so he understood that. Yeah. And I'm like, I lost in the playoffs, basically. He'd be like, okay, you'll get them next time. And that was the extent of our conversation. He wouldn't ask me any details.
That's not a bad thing to say. Yeah, exactly. It's always like, it's very bare bones.
It's funny because I still pseudo deal with that. Not me personally, but because my cousin Stango, plays Melee. Every family member ever, when they talk to me, they go, does Stango still play those video games? Like, does he still go to tournaments for those video games? And like, it's been explained to all of them 100 times what it is he does, and it's still like those video games. Does he still? Does he have a job yet?
My aunties, they just say, do you still play those cards? They're like, you still play those cards?
Those cards,
I'll be like, yeah, I do actually play those cards again. I stopped for 6 years, and then I started playing in 2022 again. So I do a content arm around them. Yes, now I have a full-fledged fucking YouTube channel and a DB account that I had been dormant since like 14 or something. But yes, I do play those cards again, auntie. But yeah, so that's like a really early story. But what you just described is exactly what I used to write about in my series on ARG. I used to do articles, and one of the articles that I used to do a series called Origin. And I remember the first SJC Philadelphia. Okay, it was won by a guy named Kyle Duncan with Chaos Recruiters, like Decrees, Shining Angels, Mystic Tomatoes, and Creature Swap. I attended that event. That was my first ever Challenge Up Championship. And up until that point, I had assumed that I was actually decent at Yu-Gi-Oh! Again, big fish, small pond.
Right.
So I was a teenager, but I was able to beat everyone in my circle. I was literally the best player in my circle, even as a kid. And the people I played with were much older than me. Like everyone was like 3+ years older than me. So if I was like 15 in 2005, then they were 18 and higher, right? So I'm able to beat all of them. But I go to the SJC, scrub out quick. And then I get time to do what you did. I got to watch Shane Scurry, Jerry Wang, all of these Comic Odyssey, all of these Overdose people. I got to watch them play.
Jerry's a killer. Jerry's a good person to watch.
Jerry does this thing that I'm scared to do this in real life, but it's so broken. He plays against people. He goes, set a back row to the far left, right? Yeah. Then he goes, set 2 back rows in the middle, pass. So there's one back row that is just fucking far left for no reason at all, and then there's 2 other ones. It would like freak me out because I'm like, what? Like, so now I have MST, and do I go for the one that you blatantly put away from the other 2, or do I ignore that one and go for one of the 2? It would just ruin you. And I actually played against Jerry.
Yeah,
shit like that is nice because you went like set 3 is set 3, right? So no matter what, it's a gamble. But doing what you just described now makes the opponent fucking do gymnastics in their head.
Mentally,
like, why the hell did he do that?
I'm already off the game. Like the whole, like, he's thrown me off of my entire game because he just did that weird shit. And he does little quirks like that when he plays. I'm not surprised this guy's a 3-time Shonen Jump champion because he was nuts. I actually played him when I won at YCS. He was my round 9 opponent day 2. So like day 2, I come in, I'm 6-2 at Atlanta, and I look at the board because you didn't know who you were going to play until the next morning. So they're like, everybody come in, see who you're going to play, and then wait until 9 o'clock when we actually start. So I'm there like 8 a.m. 8 a.m. I come in, I look at the board, and it says Fraser Smith versus fucking Jerry Wang. Now, at this time, I have 0 YCS tops, 0 Shonen Jump Championship tops. I only had topped a ton of regionals. So I am no one, okay, to this guy. Like, I am literally a random person that he's about to play against. And I talked to Sean McCabe, and Sean has to play some random, but he's playing the same. We're both playing Gravekeepers, whatever. And he's like, well, sucks to suck. And I'm like, really? Like, fucking really? My tournament's going to end, and then you're going to fucking play some random scrub and, like, you know, do whatever. And eventually, we ended up playing, and he gets royal attributed for, like, all of his cards. He's playing Plants, and he just loses both games. And he's like, he calls the judge and asks the judge, can he royal tribute with no cards in his hand? And the judge is like, why couldn't he? And he's like, I just want to make sure. So he appeals or whatever. The judge comes over. He's like, yeah, he can play royal tribute with no cards in his hand. So Jerry drops all 5 of his cards. It's Debris Dragon, Lone Fire Blossom, Titanial, like Raikou, like all the things. He drops his whole hand. He stands up, shakes my hand, and says, do you mind if I see your deck? And I give him my deck. That's
a good compliment.
He goes through it really quick, and he says, I'm playing this now. And he walks away.
Yeah.
And that was my Jerry Wang story. I always thought it brings me such good joy just remembering that moment. But that guy's broken.
That's sick.
So watching him play in 2000, he's really good. Watching him play in 2005 and seeing how quirky he is, it's just next level. And it taught me, just how you said, after you saw the 05 Boston.
But you learn what you don't know, right? Yes. Like, you learn there's more to learn.
Yes. Like the holding your graceful charity until you get Sinister Serpent. It's very simple now to us, but like it makes perfect sense. And once you see it, it opens your mind to everything else that you've been doing. Yeah. Like everything changes from just, even if that's all you saw, everything changes. And I love that. So we have very similar like Yu-Gi-Oh origin stories. It's pretty cool.
Nice. Yeah. Well, and then I feel like this could easily just be so long of me talking. So I really want to try to like abbreviate it or something. But
do your thing.
They were also like,
but don't
they were making reads. No, for sure. They were definitely like making reads and stuff too. Like, oh, your set is a Magician of Faith, and like we're all like 16-year-old kids, so it's like being called out, like,
right.
And so I remember like going back to locals and trying to do that. It's like playing as if this set card is whatever, like playing around stuff in a slightly different way, like and kind of putting my friends onto that style of play too. But basically through the next year, around the time period that you're talking about, like summer 06, that was when the Philly thing was.
Yes.
Like I would go to regionals and stuff, again, down mostly around like Boston or Massachusetts or whatever. And I just like, I think I went on a tear of like a bunch of events in a row, if I'm not mistaken, of like going X2 and getting like 11th place, like 10th place.
Yeah.
I didn't top, but I think a couple I lost on the bubble, some I just went X2. And I was always just like, obviously I wanted to top the regional, but and in my head, I knew that, me getting 11th is not really that different from me going X2 and getting 22nd or something. Right. But the fact that it was like so close, I was like, man, more. I'm almost there. Like,
yep.
And then at Boston 06, the other one you just mentioned, that was also like kind of a formative moment because then it had been a year since the one before, right? Like, and I've learned all these like skills. Like I have a better grasp of things. I'm also playing online a lot more at this point. I'm on like Duelist Grounds. I'm on YVD. I'm on all that deep.
Yes.
And
Those grounds was my shit. Okay, I was
yeah.
on that hard.
Yeah, for sure. I was a lifer. But me and my friends go to the jump in 06, and I end up getting 17th. I went X8 and 2. And then my friend who I like built the deck for him, he doesn't even really play Yu-Gi-Oh that much, but he actually started playing Melee. He was like one of the best Melee players back then. But he was like, yeah, I don't know. Dark was his name. He was like the second best Jigglypuff to Hungrybox. Little Easter egg there.
That is a nice
But yeah, like
Hungrybox is like the
prehistory.
Yes.
Yeah. It was like them two that were the two best. But anyway, but I built the deck for him, and he got 12th. And like, so we both missed top 8, obviously. But yeah, I don't know. We were both after that. I was like, damn, like maybe I'm like low key. I don't know, like getting closer. Like I felt like I was close. And over the next like year after that, I went to a couple more. I flew to one and did really bad. I like was going with my friends and just like convincing myself that this was something I wanted to do. But I was never really like, I don't know, like getting it right. I still like wasn't very good in all actuality. And
same. Even when I learned all the cool tricks and stuff that I saw Shane Scurry and all those guys doing, I still wasn't as good as I thought I had become. I was even better to the people who I was already beating. Like I was so much of a fucking god. Okay, I was like revered amongst my friends and my locals. But then I would go to an event and everybody would have this expectation of me, and I used to hate this because I couldn't live up to it. Like we would go to an SJC or we would go to something, and it would be time to be like, okay, Fraser is definitely going to do well because you're the guy at our local who's the best. And I would go and just not perform. Like I would go to regionals and go X2 and not top or like stuff like that, and it would just suck. And you know, the disappointment of trying to live up to these expectations because everyone knows you to be like, so, you know, you're supposed to be this great guy, right? Like where is it when it's time to actually show and prove?
Yeah, that still is a thing that plagues me to this day, but it also like kind of sounds complainy, you know? So I feel like, but I've had like those kind of conversations with a few people that have had similar experiences of like being the best in their little region and then feeling this kind of weird pressure on them. But basically, I'm trying to like, I eventually top a regional in like perfect circle format, like 08.
We really both topped the regional at the same year.
Yeah, it's all parallel. Yeah, I had like Latent Darkness Dragon. I remember that was the time period.
Yep, Disc Commander, Ryza, that type of stuff.
Exactly. That deck was sick.
That's my first regional top 2, actually.
Let's go. Yep. Let's go. And then I went to that Nationals, which was the first one. And like, I also did really bad there, but I topped one of the regionals there.
What Nationals was that? Was it in Columbus, Ohio?
Oh, wait. Yeah.
Because there was the one where Adam Korn, I don't know what year it was, but Adam Korn played that one deck with like triple Reckless Greed.
Oh, yeah. This was that one.
Oh, my God. Yo, that is one of the most formative memories I have of Yu-Gi-Oh! Because I had idolized Adam Korn back then because of metagame.com. He topped every single event, right? And eventually Glabbeast had basically taken over Yu-Gi-Oh! And Adam had played a deck that he made essentially to beat Glabbeast, and it was like Prime Material Dragon was main decked. And we didn't even look at that card as a card at the time, but he was beating people. He went 10-0, of course. And I dropped out of that Nationals pretty early, so I got to watch Adam play several rounds. And I would see him do all like set heavy, set double Reckless, pass, and his opponent would match him in set 3. And he would go draw, activate Reckless, activate Heavy Storm. And I'm just like, bro, this guy is actually the real deal.
He's cooking.
He's like, Foot Mask of Darkness, add back Reckless Greed, tribute for fucking Thestalos, drop a card out of your hand. So now your opponent has already gotten heavy for 3. They lost a card out their hand from Thestalos. He's just reclaimed a Reckless Greed, so he's not even skipping his next draw phase. He's going to end phase the Reckless Greed, so that way it only still counts as 2 turns instead of 3. Like everything about him, mind you, Adam and me are very close in age, so I think that like when I was watching, it was like you're watching someone who is you have no excuse. Like you're watching someone who is also a teenager who is your age, and he's just a fucking god. Okay, and I was like, there is a difference between me and him. There is a very clear difference between our skill level. I thought I was good. I'm like, you are nowhere near where you need to be, and that shit changed me forever. Like seeing him play was nuts. Sorry, I like completely went off on a tangent there, but
I think it's cool to talk about that kind of stuff. I definitely I definitely had similar experiences like that, mostly honestly with Jerry. Like I remember there was we're kind of skipping ahead in time, but I think this is getting us closer to kind of like where we actually want to like, which is more like present day. But like the following year, like Blackwing format, basically.
Okay, yes.
Like Dark Strike Fighter.
2009,
and
Rodrigo.
Yeah.
Yep. Chris Ferber wins nationals and everything. Yep.
Yes. I remember we had like a 1K or something that I went to. And some of the New York guys came up for it, including Jerry. And I think I got ninth. I missed Top Cut for some reason, but I remember hanging out watching the top 8, and he was playing like the Salvo Dad deck, and that was like probably the first time that I had like sat down and really watched him play, and you know, I just been playing online so much, but it was still very like, I don't know, like the skill cap of those players that were playing on Duelist Grounds at the time was still not like incredibly high.
Right.
Like everyone thought they were the shit.
People. Right. Duelist Grounds was the ego central.
Yeah. And there were some really good people on there, like Jeff or whatever was on there. Like
Jeff posted his winning deck list from SJC Edison on Duelist Grounds and said, "I'm going to win the event with this deck," and he did it. So there were some people, but a lot of it was very ego driven, back and forth type of vibes. I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah. So even though I was like probably one of the better players on there at the time, like seeing Jerry play in person and like you know, that deck was like really revolving around like Gold Sark too, I'm pretty sure. And so he would like Sark for D-Draw, like, or Sark for like Rhoda and things like that, and just be like have these like flows of turns planned out a few turns in advance, and just like having those kind of like measured, like one thing leads into another play style, like was just like, it's kind of like the missing piece, honestly, at the time. I was like, oh, like you can really like map out your game in this way.
Like in 2 turns, what do I need? What am I going to need?
Yeah. What are the different things that they can do, and how do I prepare, you know, all this stuff. And so that was also a big one. And then basically the next chunk of time is like SJC Edison, which was also one of my last events, like in person. Like I had topped a few more regionals around then, actually with Vayu Turbo. I topped one with Vayu Turbo like the week before Edison or something like that. And I was definitely still playing it back then. That was just like a deck I'd come up with and I thought was really good and kind of like all fell into place.
How different is it from current Vayu Turbo decks?
Pretty different, but not that different. Like I wasn't on Armageddon Night. And I might have been on like one main deck Icarus or something. But you know, like the way a lot of decks were back then were like 1 to 2 Deep Prison, 1 to 2 Dust Tornadoes, like 2 or 3 Book of Moon. So it was like a lot of that stuff.
Back then, everybody believed that there were staples and that like you had to play these cards. Like this card was too good, you can't not play it. And like it made a lot of decks less consistent than they could have been.
For sure. And also just the whole meta was different. Like frogs weren't really a thing.
Nope,
like
neither was fairies.
Fairies definitely. It was a lot of Flamville, Blackwing, Glads, like
Machina,
Rescue Cat,
Gadget, stuff like that.
Machina. Yeah, exactly. And I actually played the guy who ended up getting second at Edison, the Gadget guy. Like I played him at the regional that I ended up topping like right before. I think he beat me on the bubble, and then I still got in at 8th, and then I had to play him in top 8, and he just beat the fuck out of me again.
Damn.
And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
That Vayu had a hard matchup against that stuff, but yeah, I ended up not topping Edison either. I like misplayed in time really badly. I was like X and 2 going into like round 10 or something. So maybe if I hadn't done that, I could have topped. But I ended up going to the nationals shortly thereafter. Played Frog FTK. I topped with Frog FTK and like got this big feature match that everyone thinks is funny, where I beat this kid.
Wait, what? What happened? So this is at Nationals?
This is at Nationals 2010, and there was this kid. His name's Naveen, and I think he went on to like top and do well at a bunch of events.
Yeah.
But I think he was like a former Dragon Duel champion. Like he won the 13 and under stuff.
The name sounds very familiar.
Yeah, I think he must have played some of the ARGs like in the years that followed. But he so he was like 13 or something because he just couldn't play in the underage ones or whatever.
Right.
And I get paired against him. It's actually kind of a funny story because I get paired against him and it's like, oh, we want to do a feature match, mostly for him. You know, no one really knew who I was.
Yeah. I've been there.
But the judges or whatever, or whoever was doing the coverage, like looked at the decks. Like he was on Blackwing and I was on Frog FTK. And bear in mind, no one was really playing it at that point. Like it had gotten second at the Canadian Nationals, but me and my friend CJ brought it to this and we both topped.
Yeah.
But they look at my deck, right? And they're like, oh, we can't feature this. And first of all, I was just mad at the time. They said that out loud, like to my opponent, you know?
Yeah, that's actually,
you know, like if it's me, I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, this guy's playing FTK, you know? Like
100%.
Like, dude, like I was like, I wasn't even mad, like, oh, I can't be on feature match. I was like, bro, what are you doing? Like,
yeah, you just told them what I'm playing, essentially.
Yeah, and so, but then they ended up like talking to someone else from Konami, and they were like, "Oh, actually, we can feature it." And I was like, "Okay." And then I just drew like two of the best hands of the day, like 1-for-1, whatever. And I like
OD'd
FTK'd him game 1, like Colossal Armory'd him, double Armory Colossal him game 2.
Oh my god!
And yeah, and so it was very funny. I had someone bring up that match to me the other day, at one of the Edison tournaments I went to, and he was like, "Man, I just want to say that like I read that match way back in the day, and then I ended up playing Frog FTK at like some regional, and the only reason I learned how to play it was reading your feature match over and over again." And I was like, wow, that's neat.
Yeah, Frog FTK was busted. I played that deck with McCabe.
Yeah, I've heard you talk about it on here before. Yeah, very good deck.
That deck is absolutely absurd. So we made the mistake of going to SJC. I guess at the time it was YCS, Indianapolis 2010.
Yeah.
At Gen Con. And
that's the messed up one.
That's the messed up.
I don't really know how to say it.
It was messed up because people were ready. People came with the most anti-Frog FTK deck that they possibly could build. So I lost round 2 to the guy who won. I think his name is Tony, something like that. But he was a big guy.
The stun guy?
Yes. I lost to him round 2. He's playing the stun deck, and like he defishers me game 1, like Banner Shredder Radiance, Fossil Dyna, Doom Caliber Knight, Thunder, all the things. And I am kind of laughing because I'm like, this guy's gonna beat me and go absolutely 0-3 drop, right? Like after that, he's gonna lose the next 3. This guy wins the fucking tournament. Like he wins the entire tournament.
He beat Matt Hoey in the finals. Yep. I know, because Matt was a friend of mine. And that finals also has a fire play that I still think about to this day, where the guy goes like, he has like Dyna Doom Caliber, right? And Matt has like nothing. He's getting like destroyed. He's getting like beat down by these two guys, right? And he goes, book your Fossil Dyna.
Yep.
Normal summon Dark Soul or whatever.
Doesn't even
swing
matter.
Into the Dyna.
Flip
it up. Triggers, kills the Doom Caliber. I was like, yo, he's the GOAT.
Yeah,
he's the
that
GOAT.
is that back then. Plays like that or nuts.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's one I still think about. I'm like, that's a good one.
Yeah, I like stuff like that. But yeah, 2010 was a wild year. Frog FTK made me switch over to playing Magic together. Like
it was messed up.
Magic. That's how crazy it was. Because what would happen? It wasn't that Yu-Gi-Oh! Like I didn't hate Yu-Gi-Oh! Or anything. I knew that there would be a ban list eventually. We all did. But the thing was, we would finish our rounds so fast with Frog FTK because we were ignorant. So me and McCabe, we were young, and we would just go win the die roll. FTKU game 1 every time. And then game 2, we would just not even bother to let the people at our local play game 2 going first. We would just say, you win game 2, I'm going first again game 3. And they would be like, what? And we're just like, you win game 2, I'm going first again game 3. I'm not siding. Here's my deck. You can start shuffling. And we would just do it.
Fraser's so lucky that through his career, he's never been punched.
Somehow, I don't know how I've said some of the craziest shit to people. I'm surprised myself that like I've made it out the game unscathed. But we would just be like so disrespectful. And I got into almost like some 40-year-old guy at my local wanted to fight me, and I was a kid. He was like literally angry. But yeah, we would just FTK people, and me and McCabe would race. We would see who could finish fastest. So if there was 36 minutes left on the clock, I'd be like, I won. And then I'd walk up to the front and see McCabe already up there with the slip. And I'm like, motherfucker, how did you finish before me? He's like, play faster. I'm like, I was playing as fast as possible. I went draw phase, hand destruction, discard Treeborn Frog, summon substitute, and do the full combo, mash driver, poison draw frog. I did everything, and I like killed my opponent. Game 2, I told him I scoop. Game 3, I go first. I 1-for-1 this time. I do the whole thing again.
How could you do it faster?
Like, how could you possibly? He's like, play faster. And he's like, basically saying skill issue, all that. Like we were being funny with each other. But we would finish and it would be like 37 minutes on the clock. Like we would be fucking speed dueling people with that shit. It was so toxic. And so at that point we were like, let's play something else. So we started playing Magic.
Sure.
And it was around the Jace the Mind Sculptor format. So for people listening, if you know anything about Magic, that's like a Jace the Mind Sculptor ended up getting banned eventually, but that card is like one of the most defining cards in Magic's history. It is like a crazy ass planeswalker. And yeah, we played that for a little while. Then we realized that as fun as Magic can be, it is very flawed. And obviously Yu-Gi-Oh is also flawed, but Magic is flawed in a way that I really can't stand. Is the mana system is like really bad. But the other thing is that the people just aren't fun. Like I just do not have fun around Magic the Gathering players. Like Yu-Gi-Oh players are hilarious. Like they're fucking insane. You meet the craziest, wildest people, the craziest, wildest stories happen in the Yu-Gi-Oh community. And Magic is just like a bunch, at the time anyway, it was like a bunch of old people who just would get off of work and come to locals and play Magic. And they would have no drama. They didn't want to trade because they had money, which we didn't understand. Like, why do you not want to sell me your card? I want to buy your card. Why won't you sell? They're like, I don't need the money. Like your $40 doesn't do shit for me, kid. Like, so I just like, I hate this game. Like I fucking hate this game. I hate these people. We got out of it.
It is crazy how different the generation is. Because at that time, like you said, we were all kids, like somewhere between 16 and 22, right? Yeah. And they've all already been playing their game since they were 16, and they're like 40 now. And they were just like, it's such a different generation gap. It's crazy that those groups of people were in the same hobby store.
Yes. Like Red Cap was a melting pot. It was a melting pot of like all of these different types of people. And now I'm older and I understand now because I've been doing accounting for over 10 years and I make pretty decent money. So like when people try to buy my cards or try to trade with me, I tell them I do not trade. You will never you will never see me trade a Yu-Gi-Oh card in your life. Like it will never happen. And I don't sell cards either because honestly, like what is your I don't even know. Like whatever what is your $40 for this card? Like, it's just not. It's not. Yeah.
At this point, unless you're selling Yu-Gi-Oh cards almost as a job, like if you're doing TCG player, unless you're doing that, there's no point in you selling the Yu-Gi-Oh card.
I have friends who literally it is their career. It's what they do to make money, and they make a lot of money off of it, and that's fine. But like I work 40 hours a week as an accountant, so like that's where money comes from, and I don't. The nickel and diamond that people do for Yu-Gi-Oh, I can't get behind it. I'm like, I'll pass.
Nah, past a certain point, it gets crazy.
Like I'm too old for it now. I'm just like, I'm far removed from telling you, oh, this is worth this much, and then you're trying to get over $5, and then I'm trying to get over $5, and we're just doing this weird thing. No. I'm not doing it. I'm just not. So
it's also so much harder to do now, right? Because I remember around when the age of smartphones and like looking up looking up the price of cards on Troll and Toad and shit. Like, because at one point in time you could go in and you could like debate with people and like trade with them and
you could get over
like this card's worth that. But then at some point it was just like, how much is that worth? And then they would just pull out their phone and go and Troll and Toad, and it's like
that's the price now.
At that point, it's like trying to like do trades isn't even fun anymore. It's like whatever.
There was a golden age where you could actually get over on people like that kid did with that Jinzo on me.
It feels a lot less fun now, to be honest. Like I remember playing people for money and then flipping it and buying cards. Like I remember just like having a blast, like getting little deals, and now it's ruined. Like
it is all ruined. People don't really play for cards or money anymore like that. Like
I have a crazy story about that. Sorry, this is actually a hilarious story. This happened to me the other week. Okay, this is skipping around in time once again, but all that other shit basically is over anyway. I played for like another year and I was pretty bad that whole time. Near the very end of it, I got good. Like 2011, I got kind of good. Then I quit because I was like in college. I didn't care anymore. That's the whole story. There's more to dwell on, but like that's basically it.
Yeah.
Gotcha. But the other week, bro, because I moved. I live in Brooklyn now. And
oh, nice. One of my best friends lives in Brooklyn.
Yes, we were just there for Thanksgiving.
Sick. So there's a locals here that does Edison stuff that I go to maybe once a month. It's not that close to me, so I can't go like that often, but I'll stop in, and it's I've met a lot of the guys here that play often, and it's cool. And so like it's like a 5-round locals or something, and it's like we're 2 or 3 rounds in. This guy wins his match, we're all standing around. I mean, it's only like 15, 20 people or something, but we're all chilling, and like this guy wins his match, and he starts, just like talking, like you guys can imagine because you've been to like a locals before.
Yes.
So this guy's just like talking to basically no one. He's like, yo man, this deck is sick. Like he's playing Synchro Cat, like very classic Synchro Cat, Spy, Hamster, everything. And he's like, this deck is sick, man. Like y'all are sleeping on this deck. And everyone else there who I don't really know this guy. I don't go there that often. Everyone else there seems to know this guy, and they're like, haha, like nah, man, it's okay,
Yeah.
And he's like, he's like, nah, man, y'all are sleeping on it. Like this is one of the best decks in the format, but y'all wouldn't know that because like you don't know how to play it right. And everyone's like, no, you're wrong. And I am also sitting there being like, nah, dude, like it just ain't it. Like,
yeah, like
but I'm not being rude. No one's being rude, to be honest.
Right.
Like, we're just like, nah, man, that's not the best deck. Come on. And he's like, how much? Like, what does he say? He's like, but maybe I say like one more, like maybe I get into it a little bit more. I'm like, nah, man, it's. I think it's better than people give it credit for, but it's definitely not one of the best. Like you're capping, like whatever.
Right.
And you're
like,
definitely, by the way, that's definitely the little brother move. Like, oh, you know what? It is kind of better than people say it is.
Right,
yeah,
right.
It is.
Yeah, you're trying to pacify. Yeah, I get it.
But he's like, you play for money, and I'm like,
oh no.
I mean, if you're gonna play Synchro Cat, then yes.
Yeah. Exactly. I was like, that's what's going through my mind. I'm like, I will play this guy, and I was like, yeah, because I've been asking around people at this locals. Like, I play a lot online for money, and I've been asking around the locals, like, I want to play people for money, and so this guy's offering. I'm like, yeah, sure. And he's like, how much do you want to play for? And me being an asshole, I say literally any amount.
Yes.
Those are the words that come out of my mouth.
Favorite line.
And this guy says, oh, and reaches into his backpack, which is sitting on the table, pulls out $10,000 like in a band. Like he pulls out like 10 racks, like
no
in cash.
Fucking way.
All right. So
and just like slams it on the table. And I was like, okay, like you got me. You know, like honestly, I'm not gonna play you for $10,000.
Yeah, like that's a bit much.
Oh.
Like that is a bit much.
Like in theory, I would love to play you for $10,000. I would destroy you. You know, like
yeah.
But I'm not
like,
going.
but when you win, do you really win? Is the issue? Like, are you leaving that Brooklyn local with $10,000 cash? You know, are you making it home?
Dude,
like,
yeah, exactly.
I would not trust.
So many things.
I would not trust playing someone in New York for $10,000.
There was a lot wrong with the situation. But what was also funny is then I do end up playing him, right? After the tournament, I'm like, okay, I still will play you for money. Let's do like $50 a match or something.
Let's be reasonable humans about this.
Yeah. Which is honestly, that's about as much as I ever want to play for. Like it feels within the realm of like, okay, if I lose
it depends
due to Yugioh bullshit, then
it depends on how well I know the person for me. And like, do I know that does this guy pay up? Will he pay up? Does he have the money to pay up? Because I like to play for hundreds at a time if I'm going to play. Like I you know, and I'm not saying like $500. I'm saying like 100 a round or whatever is fine.
Yeah. 100. That's fine too.
Yeah, that's not crazy. That's not like too ridiculous. And it's like I have to be comfortable with the person, because what people like to do is you beat them and then they want to run it back, right? And you have to give them the opportunity to win their money back. But like here's what I do not like. So you get one run back with me, okay? So we're either going to go even now, or I'm getting your $200.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to sit there and play you
no.
until you get your money back and you break even. And some people seem to think that's how it works.
No,
and they feel like if you don't give them infinite chances, you took their money and you left with their money. And it's like this whole thing that I don't even do that anymore, because it gets so weird, because I've watched other people get in these weird situations where it's like, you're trying to take my money, and like, I'm like, bro, he played you twice, he beat you twice, and that's it. Like, how many times do you think it's okay to run it back? And then every time, and then people try to do like the casino scam where they're like, okay, run it back after they lost twice, so they're down 200. Now they want to play for 400, and it's like
that's when this is what I would do, right? We run it back and I go, okay, we played for 100 twice. Like, all right, now we'll play for 50.
Yeah, like, so you're like, you can only get some of your money.
Yeah, you can only get some of it back.
But yeah, people are like, oh, I want to double now. So now they want to play for 400, and it's like, bro, then what was the point of me winning those first two rounds? Like, if I lose this, then I'm down 200 now. Like, what the fuck? And so I just the whole thing is stupid. But you end up playing him after you said
I beat him twice. I beat him, and then I asked if he wanted to run back, and he was like, yeah, sure. And I just did value things. Synchrocat is not really a real deck, but and I beat him twice, and he just like reaches into his bag, pulls 100 off the stack, hands it to me, and he's like, all he says to me is like, "You could have been up 20K." And I was like, I guess I could have. I guess I could have, bro.
I will never know. I can't. I don't think
it was honestly one of the more incredible things that's happened to me.
I need to know, like, what kind of human is that? Like, he was
he's a character.
You could have been up 20K is wild.
I feel like I know the person, because I know basically every duelist in New York. Like,
Yeah.
I pretty much know everybody in New York. So I probably know the person. I probably know the people that he knows. I know James Chow, who's like in New York, New Jersey, New York area. There's like a ton of duelists there. Stephen Harris and all of the even Shane Scarry. I've roomed with Shane Scarry multiple events, and like everybody who's like under him and like surrounded by him. So I know a lot of those people. I'm just trying to think about who the fuck had 10K cash on them. One, they're either a drug dealer or they're a floor vendor, somebody who just goes around buying people's cards with cash and flipping it, that type of vibe. But there's no reason that you should have. And I don't even want to out the person. Like, that's not the goal here. But my thing is, I'm just trying to think about like, why would you have that? And granted, I know a lot of people who show up to Yu-Gi-Oh events who have thousands of dollars on them, but their intent.
Yeah, but this is a local, bro. Yes. Like, not you asking to play for money, me going any amount, and then at a local, you being like, 10K. Okay, pulling out 10 fucking K.
Yeah.
It wasn't. That's what it was. It was a flex. Like, he's just.
It was just
crazy.
A flex. Yeah. It was
with your synchro deck. No,
with your synchro cat deck.
Yeah. So if the guy was on Black Wings, right? I'm never playing a Blackwing player for money. I'm just not doing because I know Yu-Gi-Oh way too well, and everybody can cope and tell all the lies they want to tell. At the end of the day, Edison format is not as skilled as you think it is. And there are a lot of games where you just get invalidated as a player completely. Like, you just completely get fucked. You could be anyone. You could sit down at the table and you could be Lazaro Bolito, you could be Patrick Hoban, you could be Chris LeBlanc. It doesn't matter who you are. There are just some dirty things that happen in a format that are just so uncontrollable. And specifically with like Lightsworn and Blackwings, those decks can just completely, you could just get lucked out of the game. Now, if we're going to play multiple times, and I feel like variance is a thing, and over time the better player should win, and it depends on matchups and all that stuff. But like, if somebody's like one and done, they're playing black, I'm like, no, you can go fuck yourself. I'm not getting whirlwind out the game out of nowhere. Like, it's just not happening.
If you're doing like if you're doing like a fucking, we're playing for $1,000, like it's got to be a 1st to 5 wins or some shit like that. You know what I mean? It can't just be a normal duel.
I have a funny story, or not funny story, but I have a story about playing for money a long time ago, 2011, when Six Samurai had 3 Gateway, and we did an Iron Man against some Mexican players, and it was like the Mexican national champion, another Mexican guy who won a YCS, and like another Mexican guy who won a YCS. So it was like me, Silverman, McCabe versus those 3 guys. And I just remember all of us agreeing Six Samurais are banned for this Iron Man. We could play anything else. We will not, like, the Six Samurai deck was so RNG that it's like
was this full power?
This
like, was this triple gateway? This is red blue combo stuff. Okay.
It's like, I'm not playing you for money, and we're all, because all 6 of us would just be using that, and it's like,
and at that point, you're not really testing your skill.
We could just roll dice. I told him, I said, if you guys, like, if people want to do Six Samurai, it's faster if we just roll dice. Like, I'm not even kidding. We could just go to the hotel lobby and roll dice, and it'll be the exact same result, because that's what we're doing. Like, it's all coping if you're trying to fucking play a skillful game of Yu-Gi-Oh.
So what did you play? What was even the non-Six Samurai deck?
Gravekeepers.
Okay. Oh yeah, the skillful Gravekeeper. Yeah. Okay.
Well, at that time, Gravekeepers weren't nearly as good. Because Six Samurai just fucking ruined that deck. But when you remove it out the equation, it's a good deck again. It's a deck that can like actually slow grind you and stuff like that. Set spies. Sure. But like, it was that. I'm pretty sure Lightsworn was a deck as well at that time. And I forget, like, because it's 2011 Dallas. So this is the YCS that it is. 2011 Dallas.
I know people played like Chaos Plant. Like, that was like a thing. I feel like
that was the other deck. There might have been Glad Beast. People who were
Frog Monarch, I think.
Yeah, I know. I ended up playing against, I think someone was playing Glad Beast and Iron Man. And they just
gnarly.
And they got blown out. Like for some reason, Gravekeepers at that time were just too much for even Glad. Like,
Gravekeepers are insane.
Yeah, so we ended up playing and we ended up losing. And it was I was like, I'm totally fine with losing that way, where it wasn't just like gateway nonsense. It was like, we played. I believe what ended up happening is like Silverman or McCabe, one of them just like got defeated, then the next one got defeated, then it was me, and then I went all the way to the finals, and then I ended up, so it was like, fuck. I was like, if you guys could have won one round, like if you guys could have beat one person, we would have had, a chance, but it happens, right? A good time. Okay, so modern Yu-Gi-Oh, modern Edison, modern like everything, because that's where we are now. So you've been playing, according to your profile, like a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh, a lot of different formats, I should say. Like, you've played Edison, Hat, Goat, Tengu Plant, Providence, Yada. I don't know what the fuck that is. Dino Rabbit, Warrior.
Yeah, me neither, really.
Dino Rabbit, Warrior, Vegas, which is funny. Speed, I guess Speed Duels, maybe. But these are all these are all the formats that are on Format Library under your profile. Now I know a lot of these actually. So I know Edison obviously I played in, I actually topped at Nationals. Goats I played in, I sucked. Tengu Plant, I topped that. Yeah. Providence, I actually topped that event with X Sabers. Yada Garasu, I assume now that this is just before the ban list. Dino Rabbit, one of the worst formats ever.
Yeah, Yada's like 04 or something.
Yeah, Yada format
sucks.
Dino Rabbit is awful. I just do not have pleasant memories about that format. Warrior, I'm not really sure what Warrior is. Vegas is 2014. I actually attended that event, but I was so drunk.
That's like another like 04.
Okay, Warrior is 04. Yeah, I played it in Vegas, Vegas YCS 2014. I showed up drunk and played Harpies. Like I remember having Long Island Iced Teas.
I play Harpies in that format.
Yeah, I played Harpies.
Harpies a good deck.
Well, I thought because everyone was on Gear, so I was like, I'm going to play Harpies, and this deck kind of shits on it. Like Lightning Chidori is good against set cards. But I went O2 draw. Exactly. I got scraped. So, but yeah, talk to us a little bit about some of these. You have a lot of different top finishes here, like a lot of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's like 6 first place finishes throughout all of these online tournaments and stuff. Couple seconds, and then just a couple other tops and stuff here and there.
Well, what it comes down to, honestly, is like when I rejoined stuff in like 2020, the pandemic. I started to kind of like practice again on DB and kind of like get back into game shape. I don't know, whatever. And the fact is that a lot of these people that play a lot of retro formats are just like not that competitive. Like, first of all, there's only so many people like yourself that have like a very, very consistent resume of topping many events over like a long period of time. First of all, there's just a short list of those people.
Yes. And then like history.
Yeah. And then there's maybe, something that I like to think about is I think there's actually a large amount of people like myself that maybe never could go to like that many events and had like a couple successes around the year and like have some good technical ability, but then maybe like didn't pick the right decks for some events or like, I don't know, just like I've never really like,
I've been there,
had the success,
Yeah.
And so when I rejoined these things, and like even with GOAT, which had a relatively more developed community, but I very quickly became like one of, not to put it this way, but like the best GOAT players because like, dude, everyone just kind of like was doodling around. Like,
what the fuck is going on here?
I play mostly correctly every game, I don't make a lot of mistakes, and so like,
Carl, right?
Oh yeah, I know Carl.
Okay, yeah, Carl. He goes on Facebook and rages. I love Carl.
I like Carl. He goes to some of the locals. I also played him very, very early on in a Edison money match. This was like soon after we started even like playing Edison again in like 2020. And I used fish. I was really high on the fish deck at this time. And Carl used Machina Gadget, obviously, because that's what Carl loves.
Yes.
But I was so pissed because I did my full combo, whatever, Armory Arm Colossal, whatever. And I even did this thing where I like made Cataster next to it just in case. I was like, it's just the optimal thing to do if he does have the fucking Hanewada. Like, why am I playing around Hanewada? But like, sure, it's free to do it. He's dead either way.
Right.
And so I attack with my Colossal. What does he do? Fucking Hanewada. I was like, why do you have that, bro?
Yeah,
like, did someone tell you I was going to play? It's in Edison. Not even in like, and like, I was just like, what do you mean?
Just like Edison, I'm trying to negate all bird damage.
Yeah. And I still won because I made the Cataster. But I was like, bro, why did you even have that?
See, that makes you different. The fact that you bothered to make that
for
Cataster.
Sure. No one does that.
Yeah, because I'm like, I've never even seen. So I played against Frog OTK, or Fish at OTK rather. I played against that deck top 16 of YCS Charlotte 2011. And Nikki Lakai, I don't know if I'm saying his last name correctly, but he played that deck. I was playing Dragonides, and he just double MST'd me and won. But I remember when he would do the combo, I'd never seen a Cataster in my life. Like I've never seen a Cataster summoned in that deck in my entire life. So like the fact that you were like, I should go into it because it's optimal. Like I don't care if, I always tell people when you summon JD, and let's say you summon JD, you summon Jane, and like people for some reason they will attack with the Jane, and I'm like, that is just incorrect. You should be attacking with the JD every single time as your first, because like, everyone's like, oh, lowest to highest always, but that's just not true. Like there's multiple times where lowest to highest is incorrect, and I was just talking about this.
That's a hard thing to explain because like it just requires like situational thinking, you know,
Yes.
like, and like that's like really just people just really lack that. People learn to play the game in one way. You summon before you use your nobleman, so you play around the Trenchel. Doesn't matter if the Trenchel's in the graveyard, they're still going to do it that way.
Yes, that's
like,
exactly right.
Yeah, so it's like, and it doesn't matter nowadays in Go. It's kind of an interesting situation with that interaction in particular, because it's like a lot of people are main decking 3 Solemn, right?
Yes.
So it's like, if I summon my guy and I nobleman and you solemn me, maybe that leaves me in a bad spot otherwise. So maybe I want a nobleman first, see if you solemn the thing, and then summon.
Yeah.
It's one Torrential versus 3 solemn.
You know, now. Yeah, it's more of a
thought. Yeah. But that's, I mean, I understand that you think about this stuff in a very similar way, but yeah, I mean, it's just a thing that like that's how I play every single interaction of every game. You know, it's like.
Yeah, in the episode that we recorded together, so that episode is not out yet, but I'm not sure what's going to come out first. I don't know if this podcast will be out first or if the episode that me and James Ark recorded for YouTube will be out first, but we played together using the deck that he just won, a Starlight Rare Black Rose Dragon, like a couple weeks ago. It was his Diva Hero beat deck, and we struggled, but we got the W. Spoiler alert. We struggled the entire thing. Like we got no easy, like, oh, this game was just like Alias beat down. We Gemini Sparked every time. We Miracle Fusion, there was nothing easy about the games. We could have lost every single game.
We didn't activate a Gemini Spark.
We did not. We literally, the one time we had it, we got Raikou popped Alias. So like everything that could go wrong basically went wrong. Our opponent potted Everest. It was like a lot of stuff going on. I won't spoil the whole thing. Just watch that when it's out. But I could tell very quickly, because we had a 25-minute conversation before we even played a single game of Yu-Gi-Oh, right? And it wasn't intended to go that way. I don't usually talk for 25 minutes before playing Yu-Gi-Oh, but we did. And in that conversation, I was able to tell very quick that like you are very, very good at the game. You understand how the game works. You in like Beast Mode, and a couple other people, like when I talk to you guys, because I don't know you guys until now, but you guys are really good. Like you guys are genuinely good at the game, and I could tell that like if you also did what I did and like went to a ton of fucking tournaments throughout, you know, several formats and stayed with the game. I was sponsored, so that's the only reason why I was able to even do that shit. Because honestly, as young as I didn't have the money to go to like Seattle for YCS. Like if ARG didn't exist, my ass was not going to Seattle from Philadelphia. That flight's like $600. But like a lot of people, like you said earlier, you know, maybe it's you chose the wrong deck, but sometimes maybe just opportunity you just didn't have. Like sometimes that's the reason why people in real life anyway. But online is a different ballgame. Online is the whole world. Okay, you could play a true hero who lives in Korea. You could play fucking Rawneck who lives in Europe. You could play against my black ass who lives in Philly. Like we're all over the world, and like there's so many different levels of player now. And obviously with any community, I feel like the bulk of the community is going to be not that good, but the online community is significantly better than like the in real life community. And I don't know how long it's going to take before the in real life people catch up to like the online community, but that's just like a thing that I've noticed. And I thoroughly enjoy talking to good players, which is why like I'm glad, you know, we're doing this now. I'm glad that we had the chance to play against random people, because it is just interesting to find out how other people think, because me and you actually do think somewhat differently on certain plays. And I like to see how other people's plays work out. Like I'll even let Stan go, who just started playing Yu-Gi-Oh as a whole in 2022. Like he is a 3-year Yu-Gi-Oh player, and I'll let him do some plays. And I'm like, I don't like that, but I'm going to let you do that because I want to see where this goes. And maybe I'll learn something here. Like, yeah, it was actually correct to hold the torrential and let him go a little further, because maybe you know that this guy's a fucking greedy bastard. And at that point, you're playing the guy and not necessarily the situation, which sometimes the game calls for that. Like sometimes it calls for, I'm playing you and not the actual situation necessarily. Like it might be correct to torrential here, but I think you're greedy because of what you've done earlier, and I'm just like, I believe you're going to play into this torrential a little harder, and they do. And like that type of thing is like, you know, so I let people do stuff, and I always learn different things or whatnot. But yeah, we struggled a lot. But the deck is good. I know the deck is good because I have it in S tier. Like I love that. I did a tier list video like months ago, like I don't know, maybe January or some shit, February, January. And at the time, people were like, you have like Hero Beat in S tier, and you have the Christia Swarm, which didn't have that much representation yet, right? They're like, you have Christia Swarm in S tier. I haven't seen this deck do a single thing. They're like, I don't even know what the fuck that is. And I was just trying to explain it. I'm like, okay, but just because it doesn't have the results doesn't mean that it's not ridiculous. Like I think that being results oriented is one. I learned from Patrick Hoban really quick that like being results oriented is just stupid. Like that, just because a deck tops a bunch doesn't mean it's the best deck, and just because the deck doesn't top that much doesn't mean it's the worst deck either. Like that's just not how it works. You have to evaluate what the deck is doing and like how easy it does it, how consistent it does it. And when I played with Christia Swarm for like 2 weeks, the deck is just on another level. And so I quickly put that shit in S tier. I have like the hero deck in S tier for a different reason, because of consistency, and Edison is like a very inconsistent format. It's like the only thing that's really wrong with it compared to modern day Kashtira where you play 3 of all your cards and all of your cards search all of your cards. And that is what modern Yu-Gi-Oh is. Every deck in modern Yu-Gi-Oh, if they see one part of their engine, they see all of their engine. Whereas in Edison format, it's like, okay, you see Shura, but if Shura doesn't get to attack, you might not see value the whole game. Like, it's a chance that you will just never see a value. And that's just like the difference in, like, there's not a Rota for Black Wings in the deck. Like, not literally a Rota. They have Whirlwind, but that requires setup. So it's a very different mentality. And because the last format that I played was Zoo, 2016, 2017 Zoo, before switching to Edison, because that was the last format I played, I tried to apply a lot of the concepts of modern Yu-Gi-Oh to New Edison, and it just doesn't work that way. Like, the deck building philosophy of summon a bunch of big monsters and set up negates, which is basically summon a bunch of monsters and set Royal Oppression in Edison, that doesn't actually win you the game like it does in modern. Like, that will work in, I think modern Yu-Gi-Oh decks can lose the Royal Oppression, like, actually. Whereas...
Yeah, the way that because I've played Edison for a long time now, like, specifically, and I've watched a lot of either friends of mine or just like known current players or whatever come back and seen the kind of decks they build and the kind of questions they ask and like the things that they're attracted to. And it's like, it's very predictable, to be honest. Like,
yep, Dragon Turbo.
Bro, like, I hosted some tournaments a couple months ago, just like smaller cash tournaments, and like Christian Urena played in a couple of them, like one of the best current players.
Yep.
And bro, it was like the most stereotypical like current player deck. It was like 30 monster, triple power well, like I don't know, like
super combo deck. Just some
super hot maxed out ceiling deck, because they just think they can play through all the back row if their ceiling's higher, and it just doesn't work. None of those decks work. Like, if you actually play
Joshua Schmidt's deck from this past 200
dude, it's ass. I mean, it's good. It's cool, but
it's not good, right? Like, if you watched any of
but that's a total current player deck.
That is literally what every current player wants to play. And this is not to hate on Josh at all. He's obviously a phenomenal player. But the mindset that they take from like modern and then try to apply it to Edison, and they come up with these decks with like one Miracle Fusion and like fucking Quick Draw and Dandy, and then Chaos Sorcerer and Pot of Avarice, and like all of these things that are all wishful thinking. And if they go like 1-for-1 with the one Cyber Vial, it's just like a lot going on, right? And that is the mindset. It's just maxed out ceiling, like big brain plays all day. But like you said, it doesn't work. And if I was being honest, like when I was watching the stream, pretty much every single game that I see him play, his opponent should have won. But like, he played against people who literally had Whirlwind Sirocco, grab Bora, and could kill him in top 16, like, very easily. This is like the most basic play ever, right? Like, especially if you're playing Black. It's not even a crazy play. You know your opponent's on Raikou, and like, sure, your opponent's also on Snowman Eater, also on maybe Hamster or whatever, but like, there are more Raikous than anything else. That is just a mathematical fact. You check the graveyard, you look at everything, you're like, well, also, this is fucking game if it happens to be Raikou. But for whatever reason, his opponent just attacks his Cyber Dragon and loses the game outright right after that. And like, and then he gets like top 4, and like, congrats to him on that. But that's what I mean by like, the in real life people are just ass. Like, they're just terrible. And you can get away with playing shit like that. Like you can get away with playing a deck that's just that type of nonsense. But if you play that in RBET, like, good luck. Like, actually good luck.
Yeah, it's hard to explain to people like that why those decks aren't that strong, Like, sometimes it's just depression, but I don't know, like, I always feel like they kind of got to figure it out for themselves, but usually people will like try it and then lose a couple times and be like, okay, I'm just going back to current,
That's exactly what happens. I was waiting for you to say that, because that's literally, so most people, they try to force the modern mindset of make a big board and tell your opponent you can't break it. Your opponent will go Soul Exchange Kaius and break your whole fucking board. And you'll be like, this format's ass. This format's ass. And then you'll go back to
I've been going through it like, one of my closest Yu-Gi-Oh playing friends, Marcus Carice.
Oh, yes.
A bunch of shit.
Yep, got second place at Total one year. I remember that. Yep, I was there. I love Marcus.
I like Marcus a lot. He's, unfortunately, I have to say it live on air, but he's probably one of the few players I think is maybe better than myself. But he sucks, but I have to say.
I'm about to say, you really believe that?
Unfortunately, I do. I've known Marcus for a long time, and I hate it.
So I love Marcus, but I always feel like he's like half of a meme. Like, we just used to meme on him so much, like back in the day.
Oh yeah.
I just feel like I don't know. I always root for the people who get really close to winning and have a ton of tops. And like Alistair Constantine is one of them. Joji Orlando is one of them. There's a ton of people in Yu-Gi-Oh's history that I've come across in my career playing the game, and they're really good players. Like they're better than some of the people who have wins. They're better than some of the people who have several more tops than them. But like for whatever reason, things just go wrong at the worst. Like, he got decked out like in the final. Like he got decked out in the fucking finals of YCS. I think so. I think against a little kid named Gabe. Maybe not literally deck out, but he used all 7 of his Nekroz ritual spells, because you play 2 of each, and you play 1 preparation of rites. So you have 7 activations throughout the game. Like I was super big Nekroz, big brain dude, and Nekroz is one of my favorite decks.
Yeah, I never played that one.
Nekroz is really well. In hindsight, I'm sure it's not good, but at the time, it was amazing, and that's how I feel about most formats. In hindsight, it was fine. Like Tengu Plants was amazing at the time. Now people play Tengu Plants, and it's probably an abomination.
I hate it. I hate Tengu Plants.
See, but at the time when I was playing against like Billy Break and like he went back to back, and like Alistair, Jesse Samek, and when we were all playing, and everyone like format seemed brilliant. It seemed great. It seemed like every time I sat across somebody who I didn't know, I beat them every time. I sit across from you. I look at the slip. I do not know your name. You lost. Like every single time. And obviously like now, people play the formats for years, and they just like correct a lot of the things that we all did wrong back then. And the formats get too refined to the point where like the decks are streamlined and they're just way better. So that means they're less likely to not do well. They're just going to do whatever ignorant thing they're designed to do way more often, which means way less interaction, which means like the format as a whole is way shittier. And that's kind of what I'm noticing with like Tengu or like a hat format where Infinity is like, that shit is not like, I don't want to play against that. Like I watched somebody play it 2014. It's like, that's not actually what everyone was doing back then. Like Sahabi was doing that, and that was it. But now if you play hat, like you might get Infinity out the tournament, and that's just not fun. But that's never here nor there. But yeah, Marcus definitely is a player who I've known for a while, and he's definitely very good at the game.
The reason I brought up Marcus to begin with was he's current player brained, and every time he wants to play Edison, and he'll send me these decks, it's always power tool combo, zombie zero trap, and like we'll be brewing some interesting combos or whatever, right. but then it ends up
some fucking Carpath deck that like you can.
It's just some zero trap like power spell like combo deck, and I'm always just like, bro, like this is kind of fun to talk about, but like I will never play this deck.
Yes, like literally never. And I always tell people like I don't believe in making things harder for myself. So I'm a filthy S tier player. I enjoy playing the 6 decks that I think are S tier. It's Christius Warren, Black Wings, Vayu Turbo, Frogs of any kind, literally any kind. Heroes of any kind, honestly, like all the hero beats, Diva hero beat, I don't give a fuck which one you play. They're all the same. They all play fucking 5 to 4 Stratos or whatever and do kind of the same thing. In Gemini Spark Alias decks, zombies, and I think that might be
that's
all
6.
of them. Yeah, that's 6. So those are my 6. Those are like my 6, ridiculous decks in the format. And then every time I play something that's below that tier, like I'll try to play Quick Draw. I will try to play a Machina deck. I will try to play like anything else, like a Flam. I'll try to play Flam. I'll try to play Glad Beast, because in theory, Glad Beast is like so good, right? Like it's so good in theory. It's like, oh man, you have a great matchup against like frogs. Like you just invalidate the frog deck completely. It doesn't matter who it is. Like it could be Rodneck or it could be fucking anybody. You just like completely shit on that. But then like you play these decks and you run into somebody playing like Black Wings or whatever, and you just see how easy it is for them to beat you. Like they don't even work hard. They just fucking beat you. And that is the thing that really like I don't care to play to prove that I know how to grind out games really hardcore, or like I don't need to make all these great reads. I'm just trying to fucking destroy you with like, this deck is broken, and I'm not trying to work super hard for it. And I feel like when you play Glad Beast or Quick Draw and you have to like resolve 3 Pot of Avarice to beat the Blackwing deck, like that's just too much. Like I do not want to do that. Like I'm just not a fan.
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement, by the way, about those 6. I think that Hero Beat, I've kind of a weird like I don't know how to place it, because I feel like it's the worst one out of the ones you named.
It might be, because I don't know the particular order, but let me say this. I've never said this on this channel yet, and I want to get this out real quick. So I've been preaching that Black Wings is the best deck, right, for a while. And that's because I just think that Black Wings does everything in the format way too easy. 1 card Brionic, 1 card Goyo Guardian, Dark Arm Dragon. Whirlwind literally is a game-winning card by itself. It gets to play oppression. It's unaffected. It has 3 Honest in its fucking deck that you could use in a direct attack. It does all this shit, right? I don't say it's the best deck because it topped a lot or because it won a lot. That's not why. It's because it does everything that you want to do in the format the fucking easiest. But then lately I've been playing Frogs. And I gotta say that if I had to say any other deck was on the level of Black Wings, or maybe possibly, I can't believe I'm saying this, but maybe even possibly better. I don't know if I believe that yet, but even maybe even possibly better, it would be Frogs. And the only reason is because if you just do the math on opening Treeborn Frog access, it's 80%. Like 3 swap, 3 substitute, 2 Treeborn Frogs, and 1 1-for-1 is literally 80% that you. So 1 out of 5 games, you won't see Treeborn Frog access in your opening hand specifically. But the other 4 games, you will have access to Treeborn Frog, and that just turns on your entire broken ass, free ass deck. And that is insane because the format is inconsistent as a whole. Like, it's just an inconsistent format. So when you have a deck that is not only consistent, but it's powerful, like Caius is insane, and somebody come for free is just not okay. So the only deck that I think actually is like kind of up there in the S tier, like if there was S plus, it would be Blackwing Frog. And I don't care what build of frogs you're playing. I'm not debating the junk thing versus the hero.
Yeah, I'm the same. I can't care about Diva
like,
Frog
I look
versus
in
junk
the Discords,
versus hero.
I look in the Discords and I read the conversations. They're all the fucking same. Like, you're all just trying to cope. All of you are trying to cope.
But I'm finding I actually don't really, it is kind of like splitting hairs, but I don't really agree with what you just said though, because I think Zombies and Vayu are the 2 best decks. And I think that, for sure. I mean, I say for sure, but like, I do feel strongly about that. I don't really have a strong opinion about which one's better.
Right.
I think that I've played so much Vayu that I would love to say that, but I also, there's very few people that have played both to the extent that I feel can have like a reasonable opinion on both. Like, there's a lot of people that have soloed Zombies or soloed Vayu and have the opinion that they have. I've played both a decent amount, but I don't know. Yeah, it's hard for me to judge which is better. But I think like Frogs is 3rd, Blackwing's 4th, Christia Sworn or something is 5th, like or like some kind of Light Sworn variant or something. And then Heroes like,
because Christia is ridiculous.
Yeah, like Heroes I feel like could drop to the tier, like the top of the tier below, or just be like the 6th.
Yeah,
like
that's how I feel. I think like
Heroes are really strong though, so
it's such a good deck. It's just so fucking consistent at what it does. And I put a lot of value on consistency. Like, I literally again, you play anything in A tier or lower, like Flamvels and shit, and all of these decks can keep up with the S tier decks, right, in certain games. But then there are those hands where you draw Flamvel Magician and like you know what I mean? Like, there are those hands that remind you that you're not playing a deck that's like, oh, this could just be Goblin Zombie. Or
I was testing Flamvel, like not testing it because I know the deck sucks, but like I was like, oh, let me use I was using Flamvel Cat specifically. Like, just I don't know. I was just like, this seems fine. Like, I want to mess with it, and I just lose to Oppression, man.
Yeah,
I just get Oppression.
It's like, really simple. Like, Oppression is a card. I know a lot of people seem to think that the card's not that good for some reason, and it's like, you guys are fucking fooling yourselves. Like, that card is actually not okay.
Pretty good.
It's a fucking good card. Like, we can all agree the card it's problematic. It's a good card. It's both overrated and underrated. And I only say it's overrated because the people who don't play Edison, they come into Edison and they're like, oh my god, Oppression, you have to play this in every deck, and you just set up your big board and you set Oppression, and like, that format just doesn't work like that. And then it's underrated by people who actually been playing the format for years, and they're starting to get like that fog brain thing where like, you've just been playing too much Edison, and now you think that like, you're so big brain that you're like, nah man, it's fairies, bro, it's set Nova Summoners, and like, that's just like, Oppression doesn't even hurt that deck, bro. Like, you just DD Ward Lady everything, and like Fairy Nation, and you're just like coping. And
also, Oppression definitely does hurt that deck. Like, it does. Like, people it does. Like, they can't get over a big monster without honest, or like, you know, like they have to Warrior Lady.
The best
like,
monster
they can't
in their
drop
deck,
the soul or shit,
which is Christia, can't come out while that card's on the field. Like, that is the best. The reason why I'm afraid of fairies is not because of fucking Nova Summoner and Shining Angel. I promise you that.
Yeah.
It's literally like, if I'm playing frogs and you're playing your fairy deck, I'm only worried about one thing that you can do in the entire game. You can only do one thing with your entire 40 cards that I care about.
The cope on that deck is insane to me. I don't know. There was a period of time that I really, really thought it sucked, and I had to sort of admit to myself that it like doesn't suck that bad. It doesn't suck like you said. I had the same thing where I was like, this is too many normal summons. This deck isn't that good. And then I was like, okay, I get it. It is a good deck,
But like the amount, again, I always go to the amount of work. You have to work so fucking hard with the fairy deck. And I just don't think that that is worth it. And I don't think that the payoff is even that great. Like I'm like, for what? Like, okay, like if you get the Crash 4 Monster Summon Christia, that is the most ideal condition for the game.
People really like to feel like they're doing something, you know? And like the fact it makes your brain work in a way that like you have to be anticipating what you're going to do next is like more brain power than most people expend on like any given game of Yu-Gi-Oh! So it makes them feel like they're doing something, you know?
Yes. People love to set their legacy Yagarasu and have it get Dust Tornadoed or MST'd or Heavy Stormed and chain it. And they're like, I am the best player.
Is fake as hell.
I am the best player who's ever played this game ever. I am literally God among men because I fucking got you. And like that is, and people live for that. And they have these conversations in these Discord servers that just go forever about this.
So bad.
This stupid shit that doesn't matter in a real game. Have you ever played a real game of Yu-Gi-Oh! In your goddamn life? Like,
I don't know what people be talking about.
That's like, literally, I make fun of it like all day. Like when I read this stuff, because I like to keep up to date with what people are thinking, because I just find it hilarious. There's people who debate like when a True Hero, who's a good friend of mine for over 15 years now, he topped and brought back Diva Hero into the format. That deck was fucking dead as shit. He topped, now people are playing it again, whatever. There were people who were debating in the Diva Hero thread about removing Return from a Different Dimension from the deck. And they were having a fucking serious conversation about Return sucks and everything. And it was the most cringe thing I've ever seen, because not only do I play against him often, so I know that Return is like one of the absolute best cards in the deck, to the point where there are games where he sarks for fucking Return. Like he will wait 2 turns to get, it's that good. And so I see people debating about taking it out, and then people post lists where they take it out, and then people post lists where they put 2 Spine Gilmans in it. And I'm just like, I just like, bro, look at this screenshot. Like, look what they're saying. They're fucking playing triple Spine Gilman. Like, what's happening? Like, how did we get here? How did Return get removed for a second Spine Gilman? How did this happen? It drives me crazy. It's like the think pieces that people write about nonsense. Okay, it's like crazy talk. And it's like Yu-Gi-Oh's not that serious.
I just feel like so much could get solved by like playing a few more games, you know?
I agree.
Like I guess a lot of people don't have much good ability to reflect on the games they play and like why they won or lost.
Yeah.
I don't know, like, and just like evaluate how the game works, you know, like what cards performed well and what I could have done differently and yada yada yada. Like people are pretty bad at that on the whole. So like if you just did that for like
I think we lost you.
You would learn more of that.
Wait, what you cut out, James?
Talking in the Discord.
James?
Oh, sorry. Did it cut out?
Yeah, you cut out for a second.
My bad. You can hear me now?
Yeah. You said if you just reevaluated your replays.
Yeah. If you just did that for like 5 matches, then it would be way more valuable than.
Yeah, because another thing that I don't like doing, and this is me being old, I used to do this way more, is I don't like arguing with people about Yu-Gi-Oh stuff unless like I have to really respect you as a player, and like I have to feel like you actually have a point. I'm not going back and forth with randoms. I'm just not doing it. Like I'm too old now. I'm so jaded and like just an old grumpy man. So every time I see people like, you know, for example, the Return from Different Dimension thing, I won't even bother to be like, you guys are smoking dick. Like I won't even bother. I'll just let you guys believe that taking Return out of the Diva Hero deck is the correct choice. And if that's what the community believes, then like so be it. But I'm not about to go and start trying to tell people like you're all crazy. Like I'm not doing that. I'm not being a martyr. I'm not trying to convince anybody of anything either. Like
it's crazy how often I heard people say it's a win more card when I've seen so many games where it's I won only because I had this card. Like this card got me out of a spot and I won. It's not win more.
The shorthands people use, like I really actually make an effort to not say things like that and like boil things down to like the simplest possible terms. Like they're like, I don't know, people just like even terms like tempo I get a little cringe at because I like don't feel that it accurately describes the way people use it doesn't describe like, what they mean by
tempo
it.
Tempo is something when I'm watching Smash Bros be played and I'm like, okay, the Fox player fucking has the tempo. Like Mango has tempo right now because he is literally 4 stocks to 2 and he is just combo. Everything's going perfectly. The guy's playing scared. He literally has the tempo. And Yu-Gi-Oh though, it's like, what are you talking about?
Like if you Kai's their guy and you have the body on board, like sure, but it's like, but you could also just say like you have board presence, you know, like you don't have to like apply this kind of like vague term that is used by a lot of different people different ways. Like I don't know, like there's a lot of stuff. I feel like you can't get me started. Like it's like there's so much.
Well, no,
this
is what I wanted, because this is who we really are. Like I don't even try to like hide it. I think that there was a debate going on this week in the Frog Discord and Edison Format Discord, and there was a debate going on about Hero Frogs being the easiest frog deck to play, and Junk Frogs or Diva Frogs being like
that shit was so stupid. I know exactly who you're talking about.
They were like, it's so hard, and I'm not gonna lie. Like somebody came in, I'm not gonna say who it was, but he came in and was like, the truth is, all these frog decks aren't hard to play, and everyone is just overthinking it, and blah blah blah. And I was just like, thank you. I actually replied to that comment and said literally this. I was like, literally this.
I replied to this too, and all I said was like, everything is gonna seem hard to play if you aren't very good.
Yes,
you know, like
yes.
like
I
just
did
like
see you say
like
that, yes,
bro, like first of all, it's two things. Like one, I can understand most people aren't. I don't like to say it like this, but most people aren't like us, that I play a lot of different decks and I have a strong understanding of how to play all of them. Yep. You know, like I get that is not the case for most people.
Yes.
And so I have to always kind of like dial it back a little bit, because I'm like, okay, actually it is hard for a lot of people to switch decks and like have an appreciation of it, like, or like intuitively understand how these interactions work, like whatever. So like, that's one thing. Like I can understand how, but at the same time, it's very opposite from how I look at the game, because I don't really look at I don't look at one deck as harder than the other, really.
Me either.
Like almost at all. Like
literally at all. I just played I know how to play, so I can play.
I just play the hand. I don't even just play. I just look at the hand. Like
that's what I'm saying. So like I just play the game, and I just have good fundamentals, because this is what I'm good at. Like I'm good at Yu-Gi-Oh fundamentals. I just have good Yu-Gi-Oh fucking fundamentals. Like I know when I can set multiple back row, and I don't care if you have heavy storm, because if you don't have it, you lose. I think that a lot of people just still don't grasp that concept of like, you lose anyway. Holding a fucking torrential in your hand, I promise you, that will not be the reason you won that game. Like little stuff like that I've accumulated over years and years and years of time, understanding that like establishing a Stratos turn one is like really, really good for pretty much every deck because of 1800 body, and if you happen to be playing as Glad stuff, like all these things, right? And it's not that complicated. Like I just play the hands that I draw the hand, and I'm like, okay, this is what I'm doing. And I don't care about, oh, it's quick draw, so like it's super big brain. And it's like Diva Frogs, it's like, oh man, the amount of misplays that everyone makes with Diva Frogs is like get the fuck out of here. Like you literally have one normal summon per turn in all of these frog decks. Every single one. You have one normal summon in every single one. I have yet to see a build that has more than one normal summon per turn. So like you can miss me with all of this. This build is more effective and more difficult to play than this one, and like all of this nonsense. At the end of the day, your play is going to either be summon fucking Caius or summon Deep Sea Diva. One of them is correct and one of them isn't, and it's very binary. It's very binary. Like it's not rocket science.
Yeah,
it's like,
I don't. Well, I've noticed something too, that like people are very like reluctant to like figure shit out. You know, like I'm gonna sit there if I have the two options, and I'm gonna go through the pros and cons of each, in my head. I'm just gonna say, okay, which one's better? Blah, blah, blah. This is better this turn, but worse long term. If they have this, it's better. If they have this, it's worse. Which is more likely, or how many outs? What deck are they playing? What I don't know all the cards they have, like whatever. I'm gonna do my little mental gymnastics to figure out what's going on, and I'm gonna make the choice. But I have realized a shocking amount of people will get like halfway through that process and then be like, all right, this one seems better. They'll like default, they'll like, they'll like think it through a little bit. Yeah. They'll think it through a little bit. They'll think it through enough to be like, oh man, this is complicated. I better just pick one.
Yes.
And like, that's literally people's process. And it's fucking mind blowing to me. It's like, first of all, a lot of times you aren't really under like an actual time crunch. I mean, yeah, you can't sit there for
literally ever, but online Edison is way more forgiving.
But yeah, you can take a minute and think about what you're going to do. Like, sure. Yeah. And like, why wouldn't you try to figure it out? Like, isn't that the kind of interesting part? Like,
isn't that the part where that's why we're playing the game? Like, why wouldn't you try to take some time to actually say, oh, actually, it's definitely summon Diva here, hold the Caius, because next turn, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Catastor is better here. Caius can out a set monster if he sets a monster. Caius can out a Gores, blah, blah. Yeah. Like there's whatever the choice is, you can say, these are the reasons why it's better to go Diva instead of Caius, and this is what I'm going to do.
And people just the fact that you can actually... Yeah, the fact you can actually achieve a definitive result of like, this thing actually is better.
Yes.
And like, some people still, I feel like, aren't very accepting of that, of like feeling like it's still this like weird, ether of like, well, either anything could be right. Like,
no. I try to instill that into Stango. I was like, because, okay, I don't know if you go this far. Well, you do go this far back. I know that from the earlier part of this episode. But like, do you remember when people used to say they have different play styles? Like,
oh my God.
I play conservative, or I play aggressive, or like, and then Patrick Hoban drops a book and he tells people like, there are no such thing as play styles. That's not a thing. Like, there is one correct play. Okay. Like, there is literally one correct play. And it's not even like subjective. It is objective based on math and based on the information presented to you. One of these plays, whether you understand that or not, whether you even get to the right play or not, right? One of these plays is objectively correct, and one of them, and every other play is just wrong. I don't care if you lost the brain control and you had a way to play around brain control, but like, that doesn't matter. If a play is wrong, it's fucking wrong. Like, sure, you lose the brain control, which is a one-off, but like, you put yourself in a situation where you just lose to everything else. And you might get lucky and like, oh, your opponent had the brain control that you played around, and so you won. And now you feel vindicated that like, I did the right play, but like, no, that play was fucking terrible. It was actually awful. And your opponent just so happened to have the one brain control out of 27 cards. And it's like, yeah, you got really lucky there that happened. But like, the right play was to do this. And you know, when people win, it's very hard to tell them that like, you still play bad, I guess. Like, I tell people all the time, like, when you win, like, it doesn't mean that you necessarily played well or that you're better than your opponent or anything. Like, that doesn't, those two things are not exclusive, like mutually exclusive. It's like, you could play terrible.
I just feel like it would be wrong to go the whole episode without mentioning something about this. But as you may or may not know, like, I did the channel with Keegan for a while, and like, we can.
Oh, you're the guy who started the channel with him.
Yeah,
I never knew that.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I started it.
I never ever knew that.
Yeah, I did not
this is
know.
like this is a reveal. This is like an anime reveal right now.
Yeah. I mean, we could have, if you have to question about that. Like,
yeah, we could talk about it. We'll wrap up eventually, but we could talk about it.
Yeah. I started that with him, and then we would play a lot of the games together. And like, what you just said was just like totally a recurring beef, let's say,
a recurring nightmare, for a lack of better pun.
Yeah, just like I don't know, in like post game, you know, like thinking about like, oh, what we could have done better, you know, and that's like off camera. But and this isn't meant as a diss to him in a specific way, but totally the type of person that's like, oh, like we should have done this differently. And I'm like much more of a math person that's just like, well, we did the best we could. Like, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, so, I'm very math based. I mean, again, in real life, I'm an accountant, for God's sakes, and I'm always doing like probability in my head and thinking about my opponent's outs and stuff that I think that. So I take it for granted.
Yeah.
A lot of things that I'm saying here. If you're listening to this, you might be like, "This is all fucking common sense. I haven't learned a single thing." And kudos to you. But there are a lot of people who, like Stango, who just started playing Yu-Gi-Oh very recently, and I've been trying to instill a certain mindset into him about the way to look at the game, and it's put him on the fast track, right? Like he was able to win a Beast Mode tournament already, and those tournaments have like a lot of the better players in Edison. Like all the people who, when you look at the Edison leaderboard, they all play in those tournaments, and like he actually won it with Black Wings. But he beat a lot of known people and everything, and like it's scary to see how bad he was like last year, for example, and how much better he is now. Like it's like two different people. Like he now sees plays that I don't see, whether they're good or bad, but he sees things that I literally don't see. And sometimes he sees a play that is just straight up better than what I was thinking of doing. And I'm like, that's actually, why don't we Drill Warrior then Black Rose this guy? And then he's top deck against a Drill Warrior. Like I was like, I wasn't thinking that, but like, yeah, that's actually the right play. And it's just nice to see like somebody who I've had to do what people hate to do, review replays constantly. Like he sends replays to the group chat almost every morning. And I, as I'm working from home, I will click on his replay and I will watch it and I'll start typing very mean, but in the group chat, like, why the fuck did you set this here? Why didn't you do this here? You missed the game shot right here. Like I'm just like grinding him up, and this is going on for a month. And eventually over time, like he's gotten better because he's able to take critiques, not be offended by it, not feel like I'm trying to be egotistical and push my weight around. I'm like, no, I want you to be better for a couple reasons. One, you're my friend and you're a representation of me. Like when we play in fucking, I guess these Edison 3v3s now, like people are going to look at you and be like, oh, you're the guy who plays with Frazier. Why are you so bad? So I have a stake in, I do have an egotistical stake in it that I'm not afraid to admit. Is like, I don't want you to fucking look bad because you are literally a representation of me. But the other part is that you're my friend and I genuinely want you to improve. And also as I teach you, I get better. Like I get better at the game from having to try to teach it to you and not be condescending about it, not be like, oh, this is right, and I have this many tops, and like people try to do that, and I hate that shit. Like I can't stand it. Like if it was up to me, I would remain completely anonymous. Like I would love to be like, people just have no, I just want to be a screen name that plays the game every tournament. Like every RBET, I would just like to be like, I play people, and a lot of times what happens is, oh, you're the guy from YouTube, or like, oh, like love the channel and stuff like that. And I appreciate all of the support and stuff like that. But a lot of times I just wish I could be anonymous, because I just want to play the game without my opponent having any expectations, right? Like I don't want them to be like, oh, like I'm playing this guy, and then they think they got to do all this weird shit. And then people start performing for the camera, and I think that's annoying too. Like people get really strange when they feel like they're on camera. And I'm like, bro, that's just not, you're not even making it to YouTube. Like I have the power here. Like that shit's never making it to the channel. Like you're being a dickhead because you're like, oh, this is going to be uploaded, I'm going to have my moment. It's like, that never happens. And then some people, you try to correct them or tell them what they did wrong, and then they start arguing. I'm like, all right, bro, well, GG's, I'm out, quit. And I just leave the duel. Like I'm not going back and forth with you. And I'm not trying to be mean to you, but if I tell you did something wrong and you're like mad at me for telling you did something wrong, they're like, what is the point of playing the game? I mean, people tell me I do shit wrong.
It's cool that you have someone that listens, though. Your friend.
Well, he's older. I mean,
That's the biggest thing.
He's younger. So Stango's early 20s, and I'm an old man. Won't say my age, but I'm an old man. And I've known him since he was a kid, right? Since he was literally like under 12, Kenny?
Yeah, something like,
I've known
12 years old.
Yeah, I've known you since you were, okay, so I met you in 2010, 13 years ago. So I've known Stango since he was like 11. So he has crazy. He's a natural, like, I know you do this Yu-Gi-Oh stuff, cool. but he's at the point now where he's gotten so much better that he will genuinely say something that I'm like, I think you're right, actually. Like at first it took a while to accept that like he is making a really good play that I don't see, but I'm like, that's the ego talking. If the play is correct, it's correct. I don't give a fuck. Like we just uploaded a video where, like I said, he wanted to do this Drill Warrior Black Rose play, and it was nasty. Like it was just like, we put our opponent on like, you have no top deck possible to deal with this Drill Warrior we're going to get back next turn, where you lost all your cards. We knew that he didn't have anything to stop it with Black Rose. We also, the situation looked like we weren't going to Black Rose too. It was really nasty. Like it was also, you could argue somebody else might be like, well, that was really simple, but then I didn't see it. And that shit really was the best play in my opinion. Like when I looked at it, I was like, yeah, I actually really like that. Like that fucked him up. When we watched the replay, I was like, that was really good, Stango. He's like, well, thank you. I want my flower. Like give me hugs and kisses. And I'm like, and there's other times where I'll critique him and he might throw a little bit of a fit, but he's like, I thought about what you said, and that makes perfect sense. Like I get it. I get why that was the wrong play or why that was the right play. And I think, at the end of the day, like I just want to be as best as I can be, and I want other people to do the same, but I'm not willing to go back and forth with like the big brain people who just do too much theory, like too much theorio and not enough practical Yu-Gi-Oh. You just need to play, like you said. I think the solution is just,
could you try again?
She needs to relax. Sure. She needs to relax. That's what she needs to do.
She said she didn't get the solution is to kind of like wrap this whole moment up is, I think what you said is the most valuable thing. You just need to play more. And every time I tell like Stango or anybody who's getting into Edison or getting into any Yu-Gi-Oh format, and they ask me like, oh, like what's some tips to improve and stuff like that, and I'm like, you need to play more and actually look at how you lost. Evaluate your replay. I was told last month, I'm not going to say who told me this, but somebody who can see like a lot of stuff behind the scenes. And he said that the channel in all of the Discords that gets the least amount of anything, any kind of conversation, any kind of action is dueling analysis. The channel that is
probably
out of all, I mean, and there's a ton of rogue channels and bullshit channels and people playing like tier 8 decks. It's like those channels get more burn than the channel that's for people who can post their replays and say, please critique my replays so that I can get better. That channel has less than every other channel in the entire server for every server that has one. And like that, to me, is a tall tale sign that what you're saying is true, that a lot of people just don't do the work. Like, just do the work. Like, play the game, review your replays, and get better that way. Stop looking for like this, hey, you think I should play like this card and like, oh, this matchup. And then it just becomes this whole thing where people are giving their opinionated answers because they top one time with like this fucking deck.
Everybody's looking for the shortcut. Like, as two examples is one, Fraser's side deck chart. Everybody just wants that because that's a shortcut. Everybody just wants like the side deck chart, right? Instead of like trying to figure out how to make one on your own. Because
that is the most requested thing that I get now is, can you please give me your side deck guide for frogs? And I'm just not.
I also think just like getting Fraser's side deck guide, just like for anybody that might be listening, I don't think that would help you that much because you have to understand everything that went into it. And like in a month, 2 months, that side deck guide's not even going to be all the way correct anymore. Like it has to update with the meta. And like
it's not correct now.
Yeah, the next huge tournament he enters, that guide isn't going to be the tried and true. He's going to have to do another one for himself or whatever. So
yeah, we made a guide for Gladiators of Edison. We used the guide. Stengo thankfully didn't have to keep asking me how to side deck. And so I made the guide at midnight, the night before the tournament. And it took me 2 hours to make it because I sat there with Dueling Book open with a screenshot thing. And I just sat there and I screenshot it after I chose all the cards for every single matchup possible. Like literally even the decks that I think like nobody's going to play this, but fuck it. I just don't want to get into a 3v3 where I'm dueling and you're like, hey, he's playing Flamvel. What do I side against Flame? I don't want to be taken out of my game to tell you how to side deck. So I made this guide, and it is the most requested thing that I've gotten in my entire life playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Is like, can you please give me the guide to how to side deck with this? It's like, one, my side deck has already changed, so like the guide is not even applicable anymore. But two, like I think the more important thing is to understand how to side deck as a whole, and you can make your own guide. And I released an hour-long video explaining the mindset that I use to determine how to side deck. So it's not a side deck guide. It's not going to say, when you play against Christius Warren, these are the cards you take out, and these are the cards you put in. That is not the goal. The goal is to tell you, think about the impact of the cards in your main deck and the cards that they're going to side in against you, and how their deck plays and what their deck's game plan is. Like, what is Christius Warren's game plan? Does it make sense for you to keep in Heavy Storm? They're going to side in Decree, but who's really getting Heavy Storm? You're playing Blackwings, you're the trap deck. So like Heavy Storm, sure, it can out Decree, but like that is not a good reason to keep it in. And stuff, it's like stuff like that. Like you can keep in your MST, that's fine, because they play Call, they play Decree, stuff like that. Beckoning you can catch on the end phase, but to keep in your Heavy Storm is just like wrong. I don't care that you know they're siding in Decree. It's like, that is just, you're coping. Like you play too many traps to keep in heavy, and oftentimes what you're going to find that happens is that you're going to be heavy storming yourself. Like I always call, like, who's getting heavy stormed? You? Like you're getting heavy stormed. You're the trap deck. You can't afford to like keep in against Lightsworn like you're heavy storm in certain matchups. And it's just like, again, that type of thinking though that goes into it. And whether I'm right or wrong is not even a point. It's just like, learn to develop a methodology for why you do the things you do, instead of just looking to go on a Discord server and saying, I was told to do this, and I'm just going to do this. I'm going to attack lowest to highest every time, even if it's with a JD, even if it's with 3 different monsters. Because I always say, if you have 3 monsters on the field, you can just attack with the middle one. If none of the monsters can
yeah, I did that today.
Yes.
It's pretty good.
I love it. It comes up all the time though, but people don't notice it. They still go lowest to highest. And it's like, bro, if your field is Bora, Shore, Armor Master, right? None of those 3 monsters can beat Gores. None of them. They cannot be Gores. So there's no reason for you to attack with the Bora first when you could just be attacking with like the middle guy. So little stuff like that though. It's like little stuff like, you're going to kill the token anyway. You're going to kill the token anyway. So it's like,
Well, it's just like over the course of a given game, it's like so much of the stuff is laid out for you, right? Like it once you're above a certain level, you know, you're not like messing up the really, really easy stuff.
Yes.
Like then it's like, it's pretty easy to determine, like you could have a 4-turn game or something, which is relatively short by Edison standards.
That is definitely short, but it does happen.
And like, you know, the amount of decisions, especially if you're playing Blackwings or something, the amount of decisions you can possibly make during that period of time, relatively small. You know, like the amount of like actual things that you would have to think about.
Yes.
But I feel like over the course of some games like that, you are faced with a scenario like this, where you just like attack the Gore's order wrong or something.
Yep.
And like that, I feel like that constitutes a pretty big misplay in the context of a relatively short game. You know, It's like you only had so many decisions to make.
Yes.
And you made a wrong one.
Yep.
Like,
that's true.
Come on.
I have a like the last little topic I want to talk about, and we can kind of speed through this, but I do want to know, because this has been a little bit of a debate like this week for some reason about time. So, and this is not, I'm not talking about online Edison at all here. I'm talking about in real life Edison. So how do you feel about going into time in Edison format in real life? Like, do you think that time is something that comes up a decent amount? Do you think that players in Edison in real life probably shouldn't be going into time that much? Like, do you feel like, what do you think about time and in real life Edison? Because I've been in like 2 arguments now, and it's so interesting to hear what people's thoughts on it, because I personally, in real life Edison, do not go into time. And it's because in real life Edison, I play a lot faster. Like when you see me fucking playing on YouTube, I hope you have the common sense to know that if I'm teaching or recording, right, and I have to do all of this extra shit that I normally, when I'm playing in real life, I don't have to do any of that. I don't have to record a video. I don't have to teach someone who's been playing Yu-Gi-Oh for 3 years. I get to just literally sit down in front of my opponent and play them straight up. I don't have to worry about anything else. So it's much, to me, the game is much faster. Like it's just way faster. My decision-making process is faster. Like everything is faster. But people feel like, oh, like there's people who go into time all the time and they make play. And I'm like, I just don't understand how you're going into time a lot. I just don't get it.
Going to time all the time.
Like crazy.
That sounds insane.
Some guy, I think he might have left the Discord server this week, but like he got mad at me because he said that there's a guy at his local that goes into time every other round. And I said, that's absurd. You guys should do something about that.
To get game losses.
That's what I said. I said, that's absurd. You guys need to do something about that because that's not fair to everyone else. Also, like,
yeah, that's just not how the game works.
That's just not how the game works. And I was like, I don't think I'm saying anything mean by saying this, but like, I was like, it also is, you have to take accountability. Being the opponent who allows this guy to slow play, you're also,
for sure.
I said, and this is where the argument really got like weird. Is I was like, I think it takes two people to go into time. Like, if you're going into time with somebody and you're telling me that this guy shows up every week. And every week, he is the guy that out of 4 rounds of your local tournament, he's the guy that goes into time 3 out of 4 rounds. Everyone knows this at your local. And you play him, and you sit there while he takes forever to go set Raiko pass. You sit there and let that happen. I said, you are also accountable for not upholding a proper game state. Like letting your opponent slow play, and then you complain when you lose in the time, and you're like, oh, that fucking sucks. I lost in time, but I think he slow played. I'm like, well, why didn't you say something? And don't wait until it's 30 minutes into the round to say, I think he's slow playing. Your opponent was slow playing at minute 1, I promise you. Like,
and also don't wait, like maybe you're playing quite slow as well, and then you wait till game 3 when they're taking slightly longer.
Yep, that's the one
for you to say something.
That's the one that people do all the time. They wait until now.
I feel like, time has to exist, right? It sucks. I hate it. I don't like going to time. No one likes going to time. Has to exist. The system is like not very good, but it's the best one we got. But yeah, I don't know. I've gotten pretty good at a lot of people just, if you haven't played a lot of tournaments, are probably maybe not comfortable being like, yo, hurry up. But which is not what I say. I say, hey, can you play faster, please?
That's like,
hey, I'm really not trying to go to time. Can we please play faster?
That is literally,
and that's all. And if you get mad about that, you're crazy. I'm asking you politely.
Yep.
Speed it up. Obviously, what I mean is you're taking a fucking long time.
Yes.
You better hurry the fuck up. What are you doing?
Yes.
But I'm saying it in this way.
I play Yugioh for a very long time, probably way more competitive than 99.9% of players who've ever played the game.
Yes.
Okay. So I've played a shit ton of tournaments and stuff, and I've developed a methodology to when I sit down and what I'm going to do, what I'm going to say. But what you just said is verbatim what I say to people is hey, I'm not trying to go into time. Could you just please speed up a little, play a little faster? And my opponent
it doesn't feel aggressive.
I'm
it's
not
just
trying to be aggressive. If the behavior continues though, right? I start
getting, then we're on another.
Then I start getting a little bit more forceful, and then I start calling a judge. I raise my hand. They're like, what's wrong? I'm like, you're just taking them forever. This is ridiculous. You literally took 3 minutes and you said a Raiko. I'm not dealing with this. And they're like, are you serious? I'm like, I'm dead serious. You literally took 2 minutes just now, and all you did was set Raiko. That's insane. That is fucking insane. So now I'm calling a judge. I'm like, hey, my opponent's slow playing. Can you watch the game for a little bit? He's just taking way too long. He literally took 2 minutes to set a Raiko. Yep. It is insane. And turn
and one, I'm asking for the time extension. I'm asking for the time extension that it took me to explain that to you also.
Yes. The whole thing is obnoxious. So I can be a bit of, you can call me a dick. I don't care. I don't care how you feel about me as a person. I don't care about how you feel about me as a player. None of that matters to me. At the end of the day, I traveled to this event. I paid my goddamn money. I got up early in the morning. I did what I had to do because this is in real life Yu-Gi-Oh! I did what I had to do to be here. And I just want us to play the game properly. I'm not necessarily trying to rush you down so that I can get an easy win. That's not my goal. No. But at the end of the day, if I know that somebody is going into time every round or every other round or whatever, I'm not going to be the next guy who sits down like Tweedledee and lets him continue to slow play and then be like, yeah, well, he's playing at a reasonable pace. I was like, well, that's contradictory. You can't tell me that this guy goes into time you can't say this guy goes into time every round and then also say this guy plays at a reasonable pace. Those two things are at odds with each other. Those two things cannot possibly exist. They can't possibly exist. But people get mad at me when I say things like that. Maybe I'm very blunt in my delivery, but fucking toughen up, snowflakes. I don't know what to tell you. Toughen up. It's really not that deep. I'm not attacking you as a person. I'm just telling you that when you come and complain about time, right? If that's what you're going to do, be prepared for someone like me to say, what happened? I'm going to ask you what happened. And when you tell me this guy goes into time every round, I'm going to say, oh, well then why didn't you call a judge? oh, well, he was playing at a reasonable pace. Well, that can't be possible. He goes into time every round. There's no fucking way he plays at a reasonable pace. Period.
Yeah.
That's just
for sure.
Oh, yeah. All right, James.
I think I'm in agreement with you. Well, I want to say, I mean, is there more stuff like that you wanted to ask me? I know we kind of just like got in some other zone, but
that's fine. So the thing is, this podcast isn't going anywhere anytime soon, and we had Dale Bolito on twice. We've had like multiple people on multiple times. So I just plan to have you back to talk a bit more about. I want to talk about GOATs and Edison. Like I want to talk about those two formats and like things about them, and then we can have that conversation at another date, like really soon. But we can end this one here because we're at 2 hours and 10 minutes recording right now. So like
hella long.
Yeah, hella long. And I think that we did accomplish a lot here with this conversation. But 100%, I love talking to you as a person. Like you're just, I don't know, it's kind of weird. You're like a mirror of me in a way. Like a lot of things that you say, even down to like your origin, which from person to person can just be completely different, but your origin is exactly the same as mine. So anyway, I definitely want to have you back on to just have like more Yu-Gi-Oh conversations because there's more than one conversation to be had.
I feel like the meat of GOAT and Edison stuff is pretty interesting.
Like, I'm down. You've seen it change. I haven't. Yeah. Like I've only seen minor. Like when I first started in 2022, Diva Hero was considered like the deck. Like Silchus was ruining everybody with that deck, and like a lot of people played and stuff like that. And then it disappeared, and Black Wings just completely took over last year. And then the year ends up with like the RBET Rulers thing, and like Hero Beat and Fairies. Like finals, and then Christia Sworn is also a thing now. Like from November 2022 is when like for me Edison had its biggest change for like, you know, people playing Jar Greed and Christia Sworn being a deck that just wasn't really a deck before, or at least a good list, because the list that is played now, the triple hamster, triple record, that list is fucking broken.
You know what's crazy? We can end this, so that's my friend Chris Mumix, who also I think played in like Philly area mostly.
I've heard two things that are weird to me. I don't know who's telling the truth, but I heard someone messaged me and said I made this deck and I gave it to this guy to play in RBET Rulers, and he got whatever played top 8, and I was like, oh, I didn't know that you were the guy who made the deck. And they were like, yeah. And I was just like, I've heard conflicting stories.
I'm interested to know who that was, because I know
off camera, I'll message the name of a person.
No, I think because I know that might be true, because I know that he has a couple people that he builds stuff with.
Yes.
But I'm also quite close with him, and I guess by proxy them. But yeah, Chris has been using that since like the summer, which is what's crazy. And that tournament happened in November, and he was playing all these cash tournaments, and I just remember he was always trying to get me to play the deck, and I was like, dude, this looks like garbage. Like I'm not gonna play it.
When you look at it, it definitely does.
And when he told us the heavy storm thing, he's like, yeah, I don't want to play the storm because then if I never mill it, like, you know, they'll never see it. And like,
always afraid
blah, blah. And I was like, that's so smart, but also like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Like, so this was like an ongoing thing in our little group chat of like, he had the Christia Sworn deck and he loved the Christia Sworn deck. And we're like, yeah, we get it, bro. Like the Christia Sworn deck. Yes. And then he finally topped with it. And now I also top with it. And I can acknowledge that it's very good.
The deck is very good, yes. So
shout out to Chris. He's a legend. He's also one of the few players I consider better than myself. So
yeah, I don't know who all had a hand in the deck. I don't know if maybe I misinterpreted them. I still have the Facebook messages from the person who said like I made the deck, but he was very clear that like he made it and he gave it to someone. The person who topped and I don't know all the people's names and their screen names and all that shit. But the person who told me this, he is a current Yu-Gi-Oh player. He tops a lot.
Yeah.
He's gotten second. He's gotten second place a couple times, so you guys might be able to figure it out or whatever. But he's got second place at multiple like big tournaments, and he's very, very good at the game. Yeah, he has several tops. Really good player. So when he was saying this, I was like, I have no reason. But the weird thing was, it was unprovoked. Like I was just chilling one day, and I think I put out a video. I think I put out. You know what? I won't say unprovoked. I put out a video talking about Christia Sworn and playing Christia Sworn. I think I was doing a solo series. So it was me by myself, and I did a whole beginning rant saying like, you guys are wondering how I have this deck in S tier. It has almost no results. I don't give a fuck about results. If you know how just to think properly, you understand that the results don't matter. Anyways, and I was like, Christia Sworn's broken for XXX reason. And then he messaged me after that video came out. I was like, I'm glad you love the deck.
Right.
And he's like, any thoughts about changing it? And then I was wondering why he was asking me these questions. And then he kind of moved the conversation in a way that was like, I made it. Like somehow, some way, he kind of
he had to let you know.
Yes, it was like a vegan. It was like a vegan, and within 5 minutes,
like a fucking vegan.
I swear to God, the messages, because this is the last conversation me and him had. We don't really talk often, to be honest. But he steered the conversation in a way that was kind of like, "Ask me who made it," and it was like,
"Ask me who made it,"
and it was like, "Oh, you made." He was like, "Yeah, I made the deck, LOL," and I was like, "Oh," and I'm just like, "Oh, really?" Because I don't know what to believe. Like, you're a good player. You top YCS. You top nationals. Like, you're nice. I'm not discrediting you. Like, whatever. I don't give a fuck. But like, it was unprovoked, and I keep hearing different stories about who made this fucking deck now, and I'm just like, I don't know. Maybe they're all the same people though. Maybe it's the same group chat who made this deck, and I'm just the one who doesn't understand that. Like, well, yes, it came from X. It was given to X. He tweaked it, took it to where it is now. And he top 8 at rulers with it, and whatever. I don't give a fuck who makes it. At the end of the day, the deck is broken. It's here to stay.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's not that huge of a deal. But
yes, people. I guess
you don't get fucking royalties. Like you don't get paid because you made the deck.
Dude, I would be rolling in it.
Yeah,
you too, probably.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely played my fair share of different decks that are a little. I topped the YCS with a 51 card Metal Foe Magispector homebrew. Okay, I got top 16 at a YCS. It was like 1,100 players, 11 rounds. I went 9-2 with a fucking homebrew. This is not a deck that has ever topped before. It's not a deck that anyone had played before. Yeah. I called it Metal Specters. I even had a meme name for it. And like, that deck, I'm not saying it was good or whatever, but I went 9-2 with it, and like, it was fun. And I don't care if people played it after me, and if they said I made it, I literally, who gives a fuck? Like, I don't.
I kind of like the idea of royalties now. Maybe we can set up like a cryptocurrency or something.
That would be nice.
Kenny, this is a good idea.
Yugi coin.
The guy, I used the Frog FTK, and then the guy won Worlds with it, and he was in my DMs like, "Yo, how do I do this iPad?" So I take credit for that, big time,
for sure,
big time. And I think I need at least 20% of his Worlds prizing or something,
which is probably worth a lot now, considering how long ago it's been. So if he kept that, whatever he got, if he kept it, I'm sure it's worth like tens of thousands.
I'll message him.
All right, well, let me read out the names of the people who have been supporting us on Patreon. I really appreciate all of you, and we still drop exclusive content on our Patreon. There is currently a April 2023 episode that is only on Patreon. It's about the rise of AI technology and all the crazy shit that's been going on with like AI music, AI videos, AI photos, AI art. The movie Megan that came out, that's like a horror film about an AI doll that kind of gets a little too sentient and starts to realize that humans are not, good. So we had a whole like almost 2-hour conversation about AI. Really good podcast episode, one of my favorites. You can check that out on our Patreon. But yeah, for the people who have already been supporting, we have Connie, Austin, Leon, and we have Rogan Tier 2 aren't bad, but they just aren't great. Garen Williams, Xavier Swift, Hylian, Dimitri Barnes, Solon Gay Bowser, Dominique Roberts, Giovanni Avalos, Alex Flamer, Andre Reynolds, CJ, Dub K Dad 1, Dan Variable, First to Home, Dalis Fernaris, S. Akuma, Mitchell Nouse, Midwest Gaming, William Shapiro, Dimitri Sophirdis, Vince Marquette, Dallas Bailey, Roz Weiss, Nick Stengo, Hanto, our 2-time national champion, Vincent Zen, Sarah Maria, Sunny Top Cut Podcast, Alex Ahern, Philip Campa, Arale Melfi Slump, Chris Lynn, Wookie 159, MSW 2389, Edison Club, Kyle Botelho, Brandon Moore, Sugal, Nick, Mr. Soultide, Nafa, Corey Fowler, Omar Ramos, Elijah Balfoth, and then
A True Hero, Tyler Tadeo, Majora X, Anthony, Matt Glenny, Rogue, and Tier 2 are the polite terms for bad deck. Jake LT and Duty Booty. Fraser, shut up.
Duty booty rocking everywhere. I'm sorry, I can't help it. Duty booty is just too good. But anyways, that's everybody. Thank you guys so much for supporting the IMNerd Podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. It's been a while since we had a Yu-Gi-Oh guest. So James Ark here, thank you for coming on. We will definitely have you back. I know I say that about like everybody, but you're very easy to reach because you're on Discord and like a lot of the other people just aren't. But
it's crazy to me how many gamers aren't on Discord. It's so
wild.
Weird.
Yeah, it's very strange. But we will definitely have you back to have a deeper conversation about. This was more like an origin story, and then like some of our gripes with just the community. And then we'll talk more about other things in the next episode. So definitely catch you then. Good luck to you for all the tournaments you're about to play in soon and all that good stuff. I'm going to be playing in at 2K in North Carolina at Big Boy Gaming in May.
Oh, sick. Nice.
I'm going to that. So I'm traveling to North Carolina. It's like 6 hours, I guess, away from Philly. So be going there with a couple of people. The guy who won the PS5 in Philly, he's the driver. Dope. So we'll be doing that. See how that goes. I'll get to meet like, Silchas, Cameron, Hydro Pump, all those guys. They're down. They all live there. I think Raikoko lives down there. They're all down there. So get to meet some of those duelists, those powerful Edison duelists, and see how that goes. But anyways, we will catch you in the next one. As I always say, do the things that make you happy, including playing retro Yu-Gi-Oh. We're out.
Peace.